They're here in the shop somewhere.
That's good.
That's
As long
good.
as they're here in the shop somewhere, we've got
Right.
that going for
Right,
us.
yeah. Do your socks match at least?
Sort of. No, there's holes in these socks.
The one is upside down. Isn't Haynes usually on the bottom?
No, it's got like a. No, it's got stuff on the bottom, so I know that.
Okay.
But the holes are definitely like.
In a weird spot.
He is the most disheveled man I know.
I'm not disheveled.
I think you are the epitome of disheveled, actually.
What?
I'm not disheveled at all. Do you have that open so if people are chatting on us? We can
Oh yeah, I was gonna do that. I was gonna hit refresh, so it popped up here. I'm sure people are talking about how disheveled. They're like, "Yes, Jeff, you are disheveled."
This is the most books I've read in a week in like forever.
I know it's like
It was a good week.
It's a really good stat.
Andrew made me feel bad last week because I'd only read like 10 and he had 18 or something like that. So I read a lot this week. There's also a lot to read. And I got here and you made me read more books.
I didn't make him read more books.
And I'm glad I did. I like both of them were probably in my top 10 books I read this week. So I probably should have read them originally. Hey Noah, how's it going? I'm glad that you're here.
See, somebody's already saying you're disheveled.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I made Tim read Deadpool. So.
Did you like it?
I loved it, but I mean, we can
Okay.
talk about it later, I guess. But
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, we'll get you. Don't worry.
it was the right combo of characters for me to enjoy a Deadpool book. So,
The Valentine's Day one's always cool.
and although it was definitely one shot, I guess the last panel set up leading somewhere. So
Yeah. That's kind of not. I mean, I don't know. Events in Deadpool are never big, but it's Deadpool. Come on. So I don't know. I mean, it's not freezing out this week.
I know
That's
it's
a good
so
thing.
much nicer. Like
You know.
by this point in time, I just sat here last week, is watching the thermometer,
Just
and
go down.
thermostat, and it's just like we started at like 74, and then like by the time 30 minutes into the show,
Well,
it's
look
read
at
like
Tim.
68, and
Look how easy that was.
To
Now
hook
we
the
have
heater up.
heat.
I swear that was hooked up last week.
I don't think it was.
I don't know. It was.
It's always Bobby who hooks it up.
It was-
I think I hooked it up once.
It was really, really cold, and we have to turn the heater off, or you can't hear a thing on the show. And especially because we record right next to it, which is probably the dumbest thing. We should probably move to another area of the shop, but
I don't know.
Well, it's also the warmest area of the shop because the heater's right there. So.
Yeah.
I know that back, the middle room is like, you stand in the one spot and you feel the cold
well, there's
air.
no insulation up
Yeah.
there too, so we gotta. I remember I was talking with Tom
Just
about
buy
it.
a new building.
Okay, yeah, it's
Just
Yeah,
sell
sure.
more comics.
we're gonna
Just
had a
like
good
Tom.
start at it today. It was a decent day, so
I know there's gonna be people heartbroken
yeah.
coming in.
That's what happens when one of those big books leaves. It's like everyone goes, no.
That's a good thing for, all the people who came in and said, I'm thinking about it. Maybe next time I come in.
Yeah.
You can't always wait till that next time.
No.
I still think it would have been better if you had just traded it to me for Immortal Hulk 1 through 12, but it seemed like a really good deal from my point of view.
Some of those trades you were offering for that book.
I mean, I make some pretty good trades.
You were making legitimate offers, and Tim
Right.
was just like, "What can I get away with here?"
Well, it's
Not only that, when I'm talking Immortal Hulk 1 through 12, I have a second or third printing of number 1 that's the wraparound cover. That's very cool.
That is a cool cover. That's the second printing. There's not many of those out there.
Yeah, so
That's
see,
a
I've
cool
got that.
book.
Plus, I got a first printing of number 2. That's the money book. So yeah, it would have been a good value for someone to put their hands on, just for
Not
that
for- not
one
for
little Spider-Man
300.
book. If anybody out there is watching this and you've got a Spider-Man 300 that you want to trade for Immortal Hulk 1 through 12,
and storyteller.
give me a shot. I'll throw in Storyteller 1 through 4 as well if you're interested. Yeah, no problem on that one. So.
Right. And then you can do what they do when I try to make trades. All of a sudden, my books aren't worth shit.
I've been trying to go through and organize my books.
And you left with another short box yesterday.
Yeah, well, I did that so I could pull books off of one shelf so we could light the fireplace if we lost power. So, which we didn't lose power, so that was a plus.
Huzzah!
But back to the better part of the story. So I was doing that. I have the complete run of Darth Vader, X-Men Gold, and X-Men Blue, and they're all about. Darth Vader, I think, was 50 issues. Was it? 25. The other 2 were like 35 or something like that. But in all 3 of them, I was missing like 8 books right smack dab in the middle. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing. And I was very frustrated. I searched through every comic book at my house, went through every box trying to figure out what I'd done with all these books. Because an incomplete set is just kills me, And so I was in my office and I realized I put them all in my office. So they are now all complete. So if we're throwing onto that deal, I've got the complete run of Darth Vader for the second Darth Vader book, as well as X-Men Gold or X-Men Blue. X-Men Gold does have the really valuable number 1.
X-Men Gold number 1 is where the number 3 in both Darth Vader series is a valuable book, but the first one is far more valuable than the second volume.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, so I'm putting out there, somebody could really beef up their comic collection for just one little Spider-Man 300. Plus, you'd make all kinds of room in my short box.
That's maybe not a great deal for them.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Those Darth Vader books could be
throwing some
money.
signed 8x10s.
Yeah, there you go.
A couple.
I would definitely throw in a headshot and signed 8x10s.
Maybe
glossy there.
Shout out every morning on the radio.
Not to mention the.
Dude, why don't you trade that? Like a shout out on the radio? That'd be great.
Easy peasy on that one. So, not to mention the X-Men Gold is the 2-store exclusive cover. So it's the one variant that every store got 2 of. Premier edition.
Wait, which one?
And
was
it's a
that
9.6. So.
Was that Gold or was that Prime?
Gold.
Gold.
X-Men Gold number 1. That's the one where they pulled
all
the
off.
Yeah, so
I've got
see,
one of those, but I got
suddenly you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, Tim's complete run of X-Men Gold worth something." At least the first book is.
I don't know. I went through all my books yesterday because I was looking for
some
of
good
this
books.
Hulk run. I know I pulled some pretty good stuff. I mean, I have one box that's got all my good books that I just set aside in there, and then I went through 7 short boxes and 2 long boxes
to find the books that have become good since the last time you did that, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as this Immortal Hulk run, I've got everything that's valuable.
Yeah.
And then a couple just weird covers, just like I'm weirded out by this first cover artist done thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I feel like that's gonna have legs in the long run.
It could.
I think it's just gonna appeal to
if
it's somebody that loves that person's work,
Well, it depends on who it is too.
Well, it's like those Middleton Batgirls. It's like all of a sudden those ran up to $200. You can buy a 9.8 for $125 all day long right now, just because they just, it just doesn't. That couple months or whatever of this book is something special wore off, and then it just turns into.
But it's still.
I mean, that one's
$125.
right.
Like
that one's out of the norm,
Yeah.
Like where some of these covers that are, $20-$25, for just because it's a first,
That's what
it's kind of weirding me out. Like,
is a whole bunch of books that were something for a short time, and then they're not anymore, and so those I'm just trying to put back into short boxes instead of having them out in somewhere.
I found a lot of those.
I'm like, oh, I remember that was something. Nope, not anymore.
Right.
Oh, I remember that was something.
Well, and then some of them that do that, the math is still there for it to be something, and then you're like, why is this not like that book I'm filling up a short box with right now, but that I'll talk publicly about after I'm done filling a short box up with it, because I can't believe I'm getting it as cheap as I am. But it's like, well
and
I'm
that
just
one
gonna
is
stockpile
weird
it.
because it's coming down, but there's no reason for that book
There's
to be.
not a reason whatsoever.
Well,
the week that came out, it was a $20-$30 book. And
somebody here may be working on a short box of first edition or first appearance of one X-Force character. So
yeah, we know about that one.
I'm going to keep that a secret too. We don't want everyone buying those up off the market.
Are you going to start filling a short box with 8s as well? Because there's some contention on which is going to come out at the end and be declared her first appearance.
It better be 11. I'm going to be
it's 8 or
furious if
11.
it's not 11.
Well, if that's what you're going for, there's one you got to go after. I know somebody that has 2 of them.
2 of what?
X-Force 11?
No, I got one of those, but no, if you're going
for
your character, you've got to get the actual one that's considered the true.
Oh yeah, the New Mutants 98.
The true first appearance is 11. New Mutants 98 is the...
She's in 8 though.
She is. but it's not a true first appearance.
It depends on what the market says. Like,
Well, the market's going to stay at 11.
well, okay, sure. Like, you have the magic 8
It's
ball.
gonna
you know
stay
exactly
there.
what
Well, what's
it's
going to
do.
happen if that
It's gonna
Gambit
stay
ever,
there.
you know, Gambit's another one that's really, you
Yeah.
know,
Debatable, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of is what it is, I guess. If they ever change it, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people.
Oh, yeah, but
So,
there will also be a lot of people that are sitting on the other book waiting for that to spike that are going to be applauding. So it's like 8s are so cheap. I don't understand why you would pick that battle now and not just like hedge your bets.
Because
grab them both.
I ended up with a bunch of 11s early on, so then I thought I'm just going all in.
Like I gotta fill an entire short box.
Right now
with
I'm
one
working on,
book.
right
I
now I'm
can't
working on
possibly-
filling a full binder of 11, but so
He's
I
looking
know,
at that one now.
I know, now I'm like-
maybe.
it's sitting right there on the
Right.
shelf. So
Well, did you say you had a run on Mortal Hulk 1 through 12? How bad you want it?
not that bad. We'd have to find some things to throw in there on that one.
Oh, we got Scotty Young covers.
That probably wouldn't cut it. So
The Scotty Young covers are over there though. They say Tim's favorite artist.
Right.
yeah, that's great. I really
Right.
appreciate that.
You know
I
what?
love them.
I
And
started.
I was so nice to you when I did the Conan pick number 2, your pick of the week. And I was gonna say Jeff also loves Batman and whatever
Uncanny
other.
X-Men.
Yeah, Uncanny X-Men. And I didn't. I instead put books you love down there because I'm such a nice guy. But it's okay. Play the game however you want. Ooh, you know that Iron Man number 1 right there? I got a copy of that. I could let go at a good price.
You see that book that's already sitting over there and hasn't sold yet?
Right.
I'm guessing we got, what, $20 on that? $30 on that?
Yeah, no, that's
No.
not the case.
I also have the premiere variant of that book.
I bet you do. He gets premiere variant for every book.
I try.
Our premiere variants are pretty sweet.
I like the premiere
I think
variants.
they're cool.
I really like the idea of the limiting something to per store.
Oh, yeah.
or
Thank
one
you,
per
Tim.
store.
11 is the true first domino.
I
Don't
don't.
encourage him.
What I don't like is that the book they choose to do that with is just the, hey, let's take the regular cover and like make it half black and white.
Yeah.
Half. I'd much rather they do one of the artist variants.
Oh,
as, like,
see,
a
I really like the
two-per-store
black and
out.
white, half black and white covers. Like, they're just neat looking.
Well, and then the other thing I can't stand is like, remember that like first 1 or 2 for the party variant that was like a really cool one this
Oh.
last year, and then they picked like the worst. They had a run going.
Wasn't it that Deadpool one where he's like in a loincloth?
That
or
was the
something?
Infinity Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
picked the one where like they had Deadpool and standing there and like
Like, this makes no sense.
yeah. It's like that's the one per store.
Right.
A shirtless
Yeah.
Deadpool. What do you call the
That book came
banana
down in
hammock
value
pants?
real quick.
What do you call those things? The like things dudes should never wear, but like European
Oh, your
dudes.
Speedos.
Speedos.
Yeah.
It was Deadpool in a Speedo. The regular cover made no sense, and then they're like, all right, so for the one per store
Right.
party variant, we're gonna make that cover black and white. There's only gonna be one per store, so it's gonna make it super valuable. No one wants that crap.
Tim's got one.
I don't. I passed it up. People who know the kind of books I like to give, like, don't you want this? They're like, no, I don't.
If they would have put that on that checklist, he would have gotten it.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't on the checklist. Well, I mean, the book was, but not that cover.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah, you're looking for value. I can provide you with the complete Infinity
Oh,
checklist
God.
from start to finish.
Right.
So,
Right.
I had such a fun conversation with someone who's starting to comic for the first time, and they're real geeked about War of the Realms, and they're
Oh,
like,
jeez.
I was like, well, do you want the tie-ins? And they go like, do I want the tie-ins? And I'm like, no, you don't want the tie-ins.
Oh, my gosh, it's gonna take over everything.
there's so much War of the Realms.
Well,
I'm not going all in. I'm not doing
Oh,
it.
you will.
I refuse.
Oh, yeah, don't go all in. Get the main series.
I'm not
This
even
is
reading the main
easier.
series. I refuse. War of the Realms will be the first event that Tim has passed up completely. It'll probably be worth millions of dollars, and everybody will want it because
I'll
it's
read
the
the
event
main
time.
series because it's Jason Aaron and he writes good stuff, but
I think we just do that thing where we build it up a lot better than it is just to get Tim on board.
I gotta tell you what, like that X-Men thing that's going on right now, I've read them all. Like I haven't bought any of them, but I've read them because I just can't not.
Yeah.
And they've been good. That's what's making me mad about that stupid book.
Well, somebody was that whatever X-Men came out last week,
the X-Man.
something.
X-Man, yeah.
Are you talking about the 3D one or the?
No, it was like
The start of it.
what came out this week?
This
X-Men
week was like the
Ultimate or
Marvelous
something,
X-Men.
Ultimate X-Men or something.
Yeah.
And it was like some other one last week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, last week was X-Man. It was something X-Man, like the
I heard that was pretty
amazing
cool.
X. It was.
I've heard nothing but good stuff about those.
This week it was Marvelous X-Men,
Yeah. Yeah.
which it had the same art as the other one, but
Right.
Age of X-Man.
Have you read that Deadpool Carnage series? Is that any good?
No, I haven't read that one.
It's funny as we
I
point
should
because
read that
everybody
one.
watching this online has no idea what we're pointing at.
We're pointing at
No,
our
you know
super
what
cool
I
wall
did
over there.
read the other day though? I read that Web of Venom, the Carnage one.
Yeah.
Again.
That was good.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
can't wait till Donny Cates just puts Carnage in Venom. Like you know
That'd be
it's
good.
coming. Like it's. I think that's gonna be the big null.
There's a fake movie poster going around this week that was just like showed Woody Harrelson like half carnaged out, and it just said Carnage October 2019, and people are losing their minds.
Hey Joe, we did
That
have
would be
Green
awesome.
Arrow come out this week.
We did.
Green Arrow. Do we still have Green Arrow on the shelf?
Yeah, there's some.
My
out
eyes
there.
are trying. Green Arrow did come out. It's still on the shelf.
Green
so.
Arrow was great
Well,
this
that's
week.
Flash was last week.
Once
So.
that's Crosby, we've got it here for him.
We've already got it here for you, Joe. You're all set.
It was good. It was really good. I'll talk about it later because
Yeah,
I'm the only
come-
one that reads a good
Come
book.
in and talk to me about King. I don't know why I'm not looking at the camera.
You look
I'm
at
looking
the,
your computer.
I do the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
hey Joe.
Joe, come in and talk to me about Kingdom Hearts, because like, that's
Was it Kingdom Hearts 3?
Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah. Man, that game.
Life Ruiner?
It is, but it's only is I think if you fell down that rabbit hole as a kid.
Okay.
You know, it's like those games are arguably terrible. Like they're not.
Right.
They're
Like-
addicting button mashers.
They're addicting button mashers, and then there's just the cool. Like I did the Toy Story level. It's just cool as shit. Like you're just running around
Right.
like in this dumb RPG, swinging a stupid key sword around. But like, it's an RPG where you're fighting bad guys, and then when you're going through that section, like Buzz and Woody are like running around fighting bad guys with you. It's like, it's just dumb. It's great.
Did you guys see the new Toy Story preview? And Super Bowl?
Yes.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, it
Here's-
was cool.
I
Here's
don't know
my
how
thing
I feel about Toy Story.
Here's
4.
my thing about Toy Story 4, and I'm going to put this out there. So obviously, it's the movie that my 5-year-old is going to want to go see.
Yeah.
Now, there is probably in all my moments as a father, no bigger moment has been complete dread and fear than sitting with my 5-year-old on one side of me and 3-year-old on the other side of me watching Toy Story 3 when they're all holding hands getting pushed towards the incinerator, and both of them tears welling through the corners of their eyes, and all I'm thinking is, they're going to burn these stupid toys in this movie, and I'm going to have to deal with all of this when this is done.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're going to incinerate the toys in this, and so I don't want to go, because I have a bad feeling that this one is not ending well. Like, at some point, and both Tom Hanks and Tim Allen have said it's done, it's the final Toy Story. So either these toys are going to ride off into the sunset, or what happens to toys is going to happen to them. So
See, I thought. It's insane that they're making another one of these. I thought the third one actually ended super well.
Yeah.
As far
well, they do
as,
that with everything. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, we ended Rambo beautifully, and now we're getting another Rambo movie. So
Yes.
virtually the same series, right?
Rambo
The
and
Rambo
Toy
Toy
Story.
Story.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing to like, but that last Rambo was great.
It was.
I mean, that movie was like, as soon as you started, you're like, shit, it's over. I mean, it's just nonstop the whole time.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was great.
every Rambo is good in its own way.
Oh, yeah.
But when it ended, you were like, it was the ending you wanted to see. You're like, well, with the tear, you know. Yeah, went back to his dad's camel ranch, you know. So.
But then that end of that third Toy Story, I never ever got that whole going to the fire scene. I never got how anyone bought in there that they were killing toys and that was sad. The part that I think was real messed up is with the scene afterwards, the actual end of the movie, where Andy's giving up the toys, and he's like, "Let me show you Woody. He's a cowboy." He and I'm like, dude, just take your toys. You're gonna regret this the rest of your life. Like, just because 18 to 24 you doesn't think he can get laid because he's got a toy cowboy sitting around, you're gonna be on eBay buying this dumb thing like 6 years later for $5,000. We know how valuable the dumb Woody toy is too. I'm like watching a guy sell the equivalent of his like Spider-Man 300, just giving it to a kid, just like, here you go, little girl, you can have this. Like, we know the thing's worth like thousands and thousands of dollars because that's the whole plot of Toy Story 2. Motherfucking Andy's just like, yeah, just take it.
Heartless, Jeffrey, heartless. It's all about the toys need to be played with. He realizes that.
Yeah, he'll do that though eventually.
He's not gonna play with them. Like,
I
enjoy collecting toys. I don't get out my toys and play with them anymore. I put them on shelves and dust them and make them look pretty. You know, I don't have any shelves for toys. So.
He's gonna be playing with all his action figures.
I had to get rid of all my toys when both my kid opened up all of them and we moved into a small house. But I mean, if I had toys still, I wouldn't be out playing with them. They would just be in boxes and kept for their value. And that was the whole point of Toy Story 2, that's not what toys are meant for. He wouldn't have been happy just being in a box kept for his pristine value. This is about Woody, Jeff. It's not about Andy. This is about Woody. Come on now. That's the thought on Toy Story 2 and 3 from your favorite comic book podcast.
Wow.
Oh, we go some places.
We do.
Hey, you know where else we go? Rad Raptor Radio, and I'm Tim.
I'm Jeff.
Bobby.
And
Bobby, it's good to have you back, man.
Right.
yeah, we missed you last week. You went
Mazel
off.
tov.
You went off and birthed a child yourself.
I
You did.
I know. I laughed. I listened to the show last week, and you guys do this shit every time I'm not here. It's like I don't exist. I'm like, they know where I'm at. They could just say something about what's going on. Like,
We were too busy. Without you here, we just talked Star Trek the first hour and a half of the
God,
show.
I'm really upset I missed that. But no, yeah, we little man was born. She ended up in 28 hours of labor. Experienced every possible form of labor, anything that could happen in labor, she pretty much went through. It was
Lucky her.
yeah, it was a rough, little over a day and a half, 28 hours, you know.
Well, since you were looking at being done with one, it's nice you could experience all of it the first
Oh,
time.
yeah.
You know, like get through every
she
bad thing that could happen in
experienced
labor.
all
So.
of it, yeah. I mean, so, but she's doing good. She's back to normal for the most part, and I mean, he's doing really good actually. I
The
mean,
kid have a
he's-
weird shaped head after that long of labor?
No,
Okay.
well, he came out. I mean, he you know, big kid. He cone headed a little bit, but
Yeah.
then and that went away with less than a day.
My wife was in labor. She was 24 hours with the first one. He was
Yeah.
sideways for the longest time.
Right.
And they had to suction cup him out, so he had a double cone head, and it was horrifying
Yeah.
until he put a hat on that
Well,
kid. So
what's crazy?
They're like, he'll be fine. He just might shoot baskets randomly. in
just
places.
rock around and shoot baskets all over the store.
Well, my middle child, when she was born, she was 9 pounds and 10 ounces, and she was short. She's like this little chunk, like almost like the size of a football. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, she came out and it was just chubby as could be. So that's what I was thinking he was gonna be, because they were talking about how big he was the whole time, and he's not. I mean, was 22 and a half inches and 10 pounds even. I mean, he is this long, lanky kid already. You know, I mean, he's nothing but arms and legs and
Tayshaun Prince of infants.
I mean, basically.
I'm sure there's at least 3 people who are going to get that reference. So that's good.
Yeah,
Right.
they're all sitting at this table right now.
right. But yeah, no, I mean, he's a big kid, you know, and I mean, he's got a temper. I mean, it's from 0 to 100 right now. I mean, luckily he calms down pretty quick.
Yeah, but when was your kid born? We didn't cover that. That's
This
the
is
coolest
thing. He was born on January 29th, so his birthday's 129, which I'm like, this is like so cool, because it kept getting closer and closer to midnight, and I'm like, I feel really bad about this, but I kind of hope he holds out, because you know, cause she had to be induced, so, and she kept moving farther and farther, you know, and just kept going along, and then, I mean, it just stopped, you know, like they're like, well, he's just got to drop more, and it just wasn't happening, and so then it was like, then it turned into, is he even going to be here on this day? And then the nurse or doctor came in. She's like, no, like, we just got to make this happen now. And I was like, cool. He's going to be born on 129.
It's gonna be our little Punisher.
But no, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's, it's kind of fitting, I guess,
Yeah.
I said, kid's gonna grow up and absolutely hate comics. I know I mean, but like I said,
Dad, I want to dance.
Well, he's got a 129.
He's probably going to wear skinny jeans like he already does. And
Right, whatever. I mean, that's what kids do. They do shit that drives you nuts. We already know that. But, I mean, like I said, it's pretty cool. Like I said, he's even got a 129 in his bedroom. I mean, his is metal, but, it's in there. So, that's pretty sweet. But yeah, he's doing good. Full head of hair. I mean, good, healthy kid.
he's going to go for nothing but making your life painful. He's going to walk around and talk about how great Victor Oladipo is and ask if you can buy a Pacers jersey. And you're like, no, Connor, you can't buy a Pacers jersey. We only wear Bulls in this family. We're all about the Chicago Bulls.
How's that
Pacers
going?
jersey. I've not let a Pacers jersey come into my house, I'll say that.
That's gross. Like,
It is gross. They're the Indiana Pacers. Disgusting arch rivals of the Bulls when they were good.
But it's like you could see like maybe like a Pistons thing or something. Like you could be like, okay, he didn't follow my love for like another city or whatever. But like Pacers?
He's a big Victor Oladipo guy.
Oh, gross. That's the problem with like modern NBA fans though. They're like fans of like random players. Like they're not like fans of teams. That's why the whole league sucks anymore.
If he's anything like me, like 10 years from now, he'll be sitting on this podcast going, of course I love the Pacers. Who cares that they stink this year?
Yeah.
So, But no, we're still working on making him a Bulls fan. So,
Good luck.
yeah.
See how that goes.
I don't know. I thought about buying the kid some Lion stuff, and I'm like, I'm not doing this to him. I am not doing it. Like, I'll let him make this bad decision on his own.
Oh, speaking of Star Trek.
Speaking of Star Trek.
Oh, God.
I love it. Let's speak
Can't
of Star
wait.
Trek.
No, it's Tim.
Been holding my breath for this.
I haven't watched any Discovery yet, but the rumor mill's flooding like crazy that it might be getting canceled.
Yeah, I've seen the rumors. We'll have to see. It's an expensive show. It turns out that is his biggest flaw. It's a movie quality show every episode, and it turns out it cost them $150 million to make it a season. So
well, and they put it like they have. We started getting to this conversation on text message, and I was like, "This is a podcast conversation, anyways." But it's like they put it on that streaming service, so you can only watch it on the stream. So they like chose not to put it on the main CBS network.
yes, because network television is dead. In 10 years, everything is going to be streaming, and they're trying to get people to buy into their streaming service before NBCs and ABCs and
Right.
Foxes and everything
But
else.
you can't use something as like the carrot to get people over to your thing that doesn't have a large user base and then go, nobody's watching this, and then cancel it. Like, that's insane.
I'm not sure their biggest argument is that nobody's watching it compared with the fact that it doesn't have the viewership compared to the cost per episode.
Well, exactly.
And when you talk a cost per episode, I mean, it's like blowing, what they do with The Walking Dead out of the water. Like, you're up there with, you're not a Game of Thrones figures, but you're much closer to that than anything else you've got on network television when you're talking about what they're paying for a 10-episode season. So, it's worth it. Don't get me wrong. It's a very good show, but...
No. Just start GoFundMe.
Well, anytime I really enjoy a show and it gets canceled, I'm pretty confident of that. Now, I know the other Star Trek series all have like 7 or 8 seasons to them, but I didn't become a Star Trek fan until the Enterprise run is when I really started getting into Star Trek, was Star Trek Enterprise. It was probably my first main Star Trek show. And
Is that why you like that terrible show?
yeah, it holds
Okay.
a special spot in my
I
heart.
just am still something Tim likes on television getting canceled.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
And so yeah, so
Just let that sink in for a little bit, okay?
So I like
I
the
mean-
Enterprise, and of course, like, you had the first Star Trek was only 3 seasons. After that, they're all 7 seasons. Then
Yeah.
Enterprise come on. I start watching it about season 3, and it gets canceled by season 4.
It was a bad
So
show.
so then I switch over,
It
and I'm
started
like,
getting good weirdly about the time it got canceled, but the first couple seasons were so bad.
and I'm like, oh, you know what show is great? Stargate. And so I catch all the Stargate. I catch up to the then current Stargate universe, By the way, what was the shortest running Stargate show? Stargate Universe at 2 seasons. Now, every once in a while, I pick a show from the very beginning. I don't know, like Firefly. I watched that from day one, and how many seasons did that get? 1. Yeah, anytime I like a show, it gets canceled.
That is like the one show you mentioned in all of these, though. That was like a fantastic show.
They're all fantastic shows.
Shouldn't have been canceled.
I stand behind all of them, and their fans stand behind all of them. At least the Universe fans. I may be the only Enterprise fan. Which it shows when Scott Bakula goes to all the Star Trek conventions and just fields questions about Quantum Leap the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
That show was rough. Well, the way that Next Generation made the majority of its money and was able to go on a 7-season run is because it was a completely open distribution model. Like, any local network could pick it up. Like, they were just like, they made the episode, it was all syndicated. So.
Well, a lot of TV was back then.
Right. It wasn't, there was no fiefdom it was kept to. So, station to station, they could kind of decide to have it, and that really, really works because, and like, this is, Star Trek hasn't really been able to make it work since.
You know what show killed that model? Legend of the Seeker.
Yes.
You're looking at the last show that was open to that model was Legend of the Seeker, and the show died, what? 2 seasons.
Because that show is absolutely terrible.
That show was bad.
Those books are great. That show, not so good.
I'm waiting for my Audible to give me my next credit so I can listen to the next book. So.
Yeah. Where are you at now?
This will be 5 I'm going into, so.
Is that Temple of the Winds?
Temple of the Winds was 4. We talked about that, I think, on Bobby's last podcast.
I don't know what I gotta do to get off this Star Trek bullshit train that you guys are on.
We're not even talking Star Trek now. Now we're talking Terry
fantasy
Goodkind.
novels.
I mean, yeah, that's just it. This is how it all starts. It all starts with Star Trek, and it's 20 minutes of my life.
I'll tell you why Star Trek Enterprise was so great. Because Star Trek Enterprise, in season number 3, changed, season number 3, along with kind of the last couple seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, changed the way we view Star Trek.
Never will.
And I appreciate that. And now Discovery's following that
What you should
model.
watch is the Orville, because it's...
I keep hearing this Orville. I'm going to check that. What I'm watching right now is a Ted Bundy deal on Netflix.
Oh, that's
and
so
it's
good.
Have you watched that?
Did you watch Ted
I
Bundy
don't
thing?
like documentaries.
What?
You watch this one. Like, don't be
watch
so
documentaries.
close-minded,
They're
man.
so good.
I like Civil War
watch
documentaries,
stuff that
but
you're gonna sit here and
my
be like,
my
it's
wife
horrible.
loves like all these like serial killer documentaries, and I'm just like, oh, I could live without that. Can't we just watch something with a laugh track and
Can't I watch 2 seasons of something that is
that's gonna get canceled?
Complete
Absolutely.
just bullshit?
Yeah.
And then talk about it for
The rest of my
20
life.
minutes.
I'm
every
actually
week,
waiting. I
instead
really
of
liked.
watching a documentary that makes sense. And
I really liked
fun to watch.
the Ozarks on Netflix, and they're 2
Ozarks is
seasons
good.
in. And now they say a 3rd season's coming, but I'm pretty confident that's all we're gonna get because I have decided I really like that show, so it's gonna get canceled.
Other thing on Netflix I just started watching and I'm late to it is that The Last Kingdom.
I'm not sure I've seen that.
It's
You just told me about it, so
yeah,
I need to
it's
watch it.
the Vikings
Okay.
and England, and it's before England's won. It doesn't follow, like the timeline follows right, but it's none of it's. But it kind of follows like what's going on at that point. It's good. Like if you like anything with Vikings, I think you'd probably like it. But like I said, there's 3 seasons in, so there's a ton to watch, and we're about halfway through. And it's one of those things like I'm waking up the next day. It's like you want to watch some more of this, right? Like this is what you want to do today is sit here and watch this, right? But no, that one I'm really enjoying that. But
Baby time is like a good time to like
Oh,
watch
yeah.
TV. Like,
well, the thing is, this little dude, it's cool because like Brooks is so chill. He's got a couple hours at night where he's wide awake, and you can sit him in his little boppy or whatever, and just lay him on the bed, and he'll just lay there and like. I know he's not watching TV. It's just got to be like the light from it or something, and he'll even look and watch it in the mirror a little bit. It's like, and he's just content, So it's like, all right, like, you're not crying, you're not fussing, like, I guess this is what we're gonna do.
Just sitting there soaking in the Ted Bundy documentary, like,
Oh, yeah.
this is what I want to do with my life.
No
And you're like,
kidding.
look, he's watching the lights.
Right. No shit. Like, God, this is such a mistake. But, no, like I said, it is though. Like I said, it's been one thing. It's like the first few days is like we'd start watching something. You know how it goes. You feel wide awake, and it's like, oh yeah, got about 2 hours of sleep at a time here. Like, this isn't gonna work. Like, well, I have big plans. I was gonna get caught up on Monstrous.
Mm-hmm.
I made it a page.
Yeah.
I got a page in. Passed out with it sitting in my lap. Like,
But you read your
yeah.
books this week, so that was a solid.
I did. Oh yeah. I mean, they said I can't remember what day last week I came in and picked up my books from the week he was born, and it was like I was so excited because it's like, I mean, baby stage is kind of tough because it's like if they're awake, you're like, oh my God, how do I calm you down, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And then they sleep so much, it's like,
Yeah.
what do I do?
Or when they sleep on you, it's
Yeah.
just like, well, I can't. It's not like you can read at that point. We
Yeah.
watch lots of. That's how I first got into wrestling,
Right.
and that stuck for like a good solid 3 years after
Yeah.
that. Was I had nothing to do. I was like, man, all of wrestling is on Hulu. I guess I could just like what. So I watched like a month's worth of wrestling, which caught me up, and then I was
Right.
like all in at that point, and
I
spread to the rest of the family.
when Connor was a baby, I watched one summer the entire series MASH. I watched it not only through once, but I watched it from start to finish through a second time as well. So
When Logan was born, it was Doctor Who. Like, I hadn't actually watched Doctor Who to that point.
Never watched Doctor Who.
it does not surprise me.
I can give you.
I watched it.
It would give you a good on ramp if you're interested at all. Of like,
There's
when it
certain
actually
things I'm
comes.
scared to tackle because they've been going so long.
Yeah, but it's like some of that stuff like that was like it's like comics. It's Doctor Who is like NHL hockey. Like, you don't need to be a Red Wings fan. You don't have to have watched every season of the Red
Right.
Wings. You can, if someone's like even like, oh man, like this game, watch it. It's really good. This championship game or something. You can go back and watch it.
Hey guys, this is going to blow your mind, but the Bulls are getting ready to start their basketball game tonight.
Don't.
Because you know what
How
this
did the
podcast
Bulls
is.
always play on
You know what this
Wednesday?
podcast is known for? It's
mean-
up-to-date Chicago Bulls scores. The people watching live will be able to get the report as they're instead of just the podcast coming out the next day. Currently, Chicago is up against the Pelicans.
Timer for
10-4. 10-4. By the way, Anthony Davis, who looks to be getting traded, is not playing in this game. So
Is he the unibrow guy?
Yeah.
he's a proud guy.
Yeah. Isn't it LeBron's giving up half his team to get him?
LeBron's trying to give up half his team to get him.
Yeah.
And the Pelicans know this, and so they're like, okay, we'll give you all of our best players and 2 first-round picks. And the Pelicans are like, ooh, maybe if we got 4 first-round picks, we would consider it. And so they've done that about 3 times now. It's been kind of interesting. Yeah.
I love like the people just the
Right.
chanting at the
Oh,
Pacers fans
yeah.
chanting like LeBron is gonna trade
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
it was
that was
super
great. So we've done basketball and Star Trek and babies, but we also all read comic books this week.
Did we?
Should we all talk about some comic
Let's talk
books
about
this week?
some comic
Because this is, I gotta tell you what, I would say as far as 3 of us all having a big stack of books this week, we all have a giant stack of books
If
this
you're
week.
grading on a curve, I read 77 comics this week. Like if you give me like my usual handicap, like this is I think I have 12 sitting here.
I used to try to read as much as I could, and I've cut way down.
We used to you used to get here about when I did on Wednesdays, and you wouldn't leave until we did this.
Yeah.
And you would every time you get bored, be like, I'd find something else to read.
Yeah.
And
You were the reason I started reading so many books to the podcast, because I was like, every time Bobby's bringing like 22 books to the table, and I'm doing like 10.
But the bad thing is like I got 22 books. Out of those 22 books, I might be able to describe 5 of them and make somebody actually want to read it. But
I've tried to cut back. I'm trying to cut back my pull right now every week, but and I've started taking notes because I was the same thing. I do try to read a big cross section of books because one thing I like about podcast is that a lot of times I've started books in the past because of what they recommend on the podcast. So I like to try to give people a lot of different books that are out there. But at the same time, I realized 25 books was too many.
I this, like, as much as, like, we talk, and I think it's kind of obvious, like, I'm kind of stuck right now with comics. Like, I've kind of hit, not like a rut or anything, but, like, I haven't found something that I, like, wanted to branch out to. Like, there hasn't been something that came along where it's kind of got me going towards other books because of that book. Like, and a lot of the things I'm reading right now, I'm not enjoying these books that I read, and I'm like, I gotta go back and reread it. Like, I'm probably the worst one for this. I'm like, comic as comic is me all day. That's what I enjoy. That's what I like about comics, and I'm just kind of really going more towards things that I read it once through, and it's like, whether it's something that I laugh through or something that I just go
up in the story,
where I don't need to know this huge back history. I don't need to know, that kind of thing.
I'm that way too.
It's something. There's a lot of new things that are coming out that are really good. Like, I think I think Die is really cool, but it's not a book for me. Like, I enjoy reading it, but it's not a book for me. I really like Middle West. I think Middle West hits a little bit of everyone, in a way, and it also might be a book some people read and are like, maybe pissed off halfway through it, where they're like, I like this, but, like, I don't, there's certain things that are just triggering to them. I think, I'm trying to think, like, Murder Falcon to me is, like, one of the most fun books I read, but it's a book where there's not one person I could look at and be like, unless they came in here with a guitar strapped to their back and, like, a Pantera t-shirt or something, I don't know who I'd be like, you gotta read this. But it's just, like, it's kind of, like, it's just tough right now. I'm really stuck on a lot of superhero stuff, but
it might just be a year like that. I had that year last year.
Right.
Like, when I did my write-up for my top 10 books, like, I started it going, like, I wish I had a book that I liked as much as Bobby liked Gideon or Tim liked Batman. I just really didn't, I liked Hulk a lot, but, like, it wasn't a book that I like, had that kind of feeling about. I have a feeling this year I'm gonna have a couple. Like, I'm having a completely different year already, and we're only in February.
And it's like, right now, anybody that's reading something and they're like, you really need to check this out. This is really good, and I know it's something that I probably won't like. I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna read it.
Just because you're looking for that.
It's like you're searching for something, it's hard because I'm trying not to get stuck on, like, I don't want to not like this, I don't want to knock this book because it's not that it's bad, it's just not for me. And I think that's it's kind of, it's not that it's tough, it's just, like, every week I almost feel like I'm settling for, like, a book I really like. And it's not settling, it's like, they're good books, but it's usually you got one, maybe two books every week where you're like, this is so much better than everything else I read. Where I think I've gone probably a month out of what, we're not even really a month, we're a month into the year now.
No, that was my year last year, and I couldn't figure out for a long time. I was like, well, is it just that I'm busy with the shop? And then I was like, is it, like, I had a lot of weird life stuff last year, so I was like, is that it? And I don't think it was. I just think there was just not anything. And I remember when Die hit, and that book felt like it was something that, like, was tailor-made for me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I've been waiting all year to read this, and then I think it was, December that finally came out. I was like, I got a book finally. And, like, I'm having a much better year this year. So, like, But it's early. It might turn around and something.
You never know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, and like one thing this year, like a lot of the like, I mean, it's not obvious. Like I'm really big on the anti-hero. Like that's kind of one thing. You know what I mean? Like my favorite characters are easily, you know, that's them. But like, I mean, Venom was really strong last year. I still think that's probably been one of the best things going since that whole Kate's takeover. This Punisher run has been just ridiculously good. Like that has been one of my favorite things that
I really need
read.
to catch up on it because I keep hearing great things
It's
about it.
like, I mean, this is a lot of times you hear people when they talk about Punisher. I mean, Garth Ennis gets brought up instantly, and I mean, there's good reason for it. This is getting close to that. Like it's, I mean, the dude literally has. I mean, I wasn't here last week, and I know we don't like doing this, but I mean, he's got a chest. His chest has got the skull carved in it. He's locked up in jail, and this nun that is like basically like running the jail, like, you know, she's a prisoner too, but you know, is helping him out, and this is getting referenced back to Punisher 37 is like when she made it, you know, an appearance basically, and it's just, it's really, really good, and it's one of those things, like I was kind of, you know, I mean, last week, you know, I'm really glad I missed the show last week. Big things happened, but that was probably one of, you know, the best issues I've read of that. I don't know how long, and the one before it was actually just as good. It's just the run they're going through right now, like, is so good, and it's kind of cool because, like I said, I'm really searching for other things, but the books, like the characters I really like, the stuff they've got going right now is just great.
Yeah.
You know, like that Teen Titans run right now is this new team. Team books, I think, are really hard to get into, and that book, ever since they remade this whole team, it has been so good. Like, it's been so good, and you talk about how annuals, you know, most people are like, the annual's just like someone else comes in and has some fun with it. Like, this one actually followed and led into other stuff, and it was just,
I think DC annuals are doing that more and more. I listened to a whole show about that the other day, just how DC has kind of changed the use of their annuals all of a sudden now, the blue, and
I mean, that's,
they've been getting stuff that was very coherent with the main storyline.
Teen Titans book is, I mean, you know, I'm not here very often anymore. That Teen Titans book is one. Anybody that's like a big DC fan, or, you know, I would be throwing that at everyone. You know, like, either pick up from 20 and just run with it, or just start here and then backtrack to 20, or however you want to do it. Excuse me, because that has been, I don't know, it's just been one of those books that is, every time that comes out, I'm like, how is this so good?
I was reading that one issue to issue, and I don't even know why I fell off, but I did, so I'll have to catch back up on that too.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, that's probably been one of my favorite books so far this year, which it's Teen Titans. Like, you know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but it's been that good. So, not to completely sidetrack this week.
Well, speaking of this week, I have to say this week I had probably 4 books I thought were head and shoulders above everything else, and then Jeff had to shove 2 more into my hand that I put in there. So this, I thought, was a really solid week. My pick of the week here, I'm going with Old Man Quill, and I'm going to talk about 5 or 6 books as how much I love them. This was probably a tough pick in between them. I love the old man books. I'll just say it. You put somebody and make them an old man, and all of a sudden,
because we're old, we relate.
I'm all of 41. I get it, you know. And the old man books, they tend to be up there in their 60s, 70s, 80s. But you know what? I relate to these characters, and you know, in this book, we end up with Quill. We start off with like middle-aged Quill, who's kind of past the Guardians of the Galaxy years. He's settled down. He's married some like princess. He has kids.
Yeah, do we know who she is?
No, not that I know of. See, but my Guardians of the Galaxy lore is Guardians of the Galaxy lore is limited. But he's got kids there.
I just knew it was not Gamora.
The-
I was like, oh, okay.
The Universal Church is out there destroying planets left and right.
They seemed cool. Like
They seem very mean, but
Uh,
so Peter Quill tries to call for help from like the X-Men and Avengers, none of who comes. So he's like, you know what? I was a Guardian of the Galaxy. I'll go ahead and do this myself. And in essence, he lets his entire planet get destroyed because of his ineptitude.
It was that moment where like she's like, "Don't leave, it's a bad thing." He's like, he's like, "I'm a day away from retirement. It's fine." Like it was. You could kind of tell where it was going.
Yeah, you knew where it was going at that point.
Yeah.
You knew you had to get to the character, and so that's in the first few pages. He wakes up from cryogenic sleep, essentially, complains that there's no alcohol, that he didn't want to get woke up until the booze got delivered. He's much older. He's put on a whole bunch of weight, and he is the old man Quill that we are given. He's been pulled out early because the Guardians of the Galaxy have showed up, who are all old now as well. And so you get like
Rocket with a cane.
The Rocket with the cane was amazing. And yeah, we started off on their adventure. The end of the book was led you, I think, as much as at the beginning to get really excited about the path this book has taken as they drop down to Mount Rushmore, which is getting changed around with somebody else's faces on there. And
that was amazing.
and I just everything about this book just hit, and I was really bummed last year. My first pick of the week, I think, on our very first podcast was Old Man Hawkeye, and I was bummed when that hit 12. We kind of ran the full rotation, and now we're starting on this new adventure with Peter Quill, with Old Man Quill, and I'm super excited. So
it's a cool book. That thing at the end with the Mount Rushmore, especially the three of the heads being the same, was amazing. The whole like Kingpin arc that it started with, where it's like, you know, the movie Kingpin, where they show him at first, and then he gets his hand shoved in the thing and it cuts to. This does that same cut where it's just like he's the emperor. He's like happy. He's got all his crap together, and then he's
still orbiting the planet. Like, it's the most sad, depressing thing. Yeah. Like, his ship still orbits the planet that he lost. And
It's I struggle with Guardian stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like what the beginning of this book was just like. I have no clue even what they're referencing, who they're talking about, and then the end of it. This book draws you in at the end. Like I think that's the easiest thing to do with like these old man series. Is like where they're putting it. Mm-hmm. I think because like that, I'm with you. You put anything in there, and I'm
it's the best.
I love it.
It's the best time to take. I mean,
I'm the same way.
Hawkeye and Logan, and so. No, it's great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the book too, because
it's good.
I came away just loving it.
I mean, who's the next Old Man character gonna be? Who are they gonna do next?
Well, they blow Old Man Rocket in this, so they couldn't do that. But
oh my God, Old Man Rocket would be so much fun.
I think
there's a number. Old Man Venom, Old Symbiote Venom. Man, I have. It's same. Like, this is one of the better weeks of comics I can remember in quite some time. And last week was a pretty good week too.
Last week was a good week. Last week no, it wasn't. Personally, there were a lot of books I liked last week and didn't just adore, and this week there were books that I just
adored.
There's
multiple books I adore this week. I'm going to pick this, and all we have left is the pervy cosplay covers of it, which
it sounds like we just ordered some more of those. So. Not the pervy cosplay covers.
No, but we ordered some more of the
Wait, I've got the normal one that I borrowed from you.
Yeah. But Red Sonja, number 1, by one future 2019 Writer of the Year, Mark Russell.
You guys are asking a lot.
I don't know if that's going to happen, but...
like I said, I loved a lot of books this week. A lot of them I thought were absolutely exceptional. That's a show cover. That thing's great.
I got the best cover.
But this book, so we've been talking. If you heard our like Writer of the Year thing last year, when you heard us debating it. You heard Andrew and I talk about Mark Russell a lot and how he takes books that you don't care about the characters at all, and the book shouldn't be something that's great, and he makes them great. Like he's really, really good at that. This from page 1 to the very end was like a super entertaining read in a week that, like, we'll talk about Conan. Conan came out and was great. I think this somewhat out Conan. The main setup here we get, you don't have to have read any Red Sonja in the past. But
and although they didn't discount any of the Red Sonja in the past, they definitely played it down quite a bit. You know, like they knew her as, you know, the she-devil, and you know that's the reason they call her into town. But at the same hand, the fact that she has done all of this stuff in the past was just kind of swept under the rug. So
right. So this starts with her returning to her homeland. And as soon as she gets back there, at the same time, this emperor who is just this complete jerk of an emperor who's just conquering space after space after space.
Because he believes he has to, because of the prophecy.
He believes because of a prophecy that says that, hey, if I stop conquering things, I'm going to die. So, which is funny because it's, of course, like, as soon as he dies, he's done conquering things anyway. So it's like, it's really a silly thing. But he is conquering everything and is going to be conquering Greenland.
So the best is because you don't spend that much time with Red Sonja in this book. Like, really, you get to a couple different spots, but at the beginning, he's got like the king of the area he's just conquered, and so his punishment for standing against the army as it comes in, he had to get sewn into a bag with 10 scorpions, 8 rats, and 1 goat. And like he's like, the scorpions to show your treachery, the rats to show your cowardice, and the goat, I don't remember why the goat is there, but there's a good reason for it. And it was great.
It was phenomenal. And so he's like, I'm taking over that land. So he sends his delegate to take over Red Sonja's land, and she has just gotten back there, and she doesn't even know if she's going to be accepted. And she gets there, and they're like,
"You're now the queen.
You're now the queen. We're leaving." Bye, because they know what's happening. So they put her in charge as the queen, and they GTFO, and then she gets this letter from this emperor, which is the funniest, most amusingly tone deaf. You know those like joke letters from like corporations or something. It is that sort of thing.
That, yeah.
It's
that's
like,
where he's going with it.
Congratulations, you've been annexed by the such and such empire. Like, we just asked for your complete devotion and slavery. Like, that was hilarious. And then she writes a letter back with that,
which we don't get all of. So.
Which we don't get all of, but is like dripping with like polite FUs basically throughout, and it is fantastic. And this setup going forward, like where he's positioned her, where he's the enemy he's created and the motivations thereof, the like foreshadowing of like the king that gets thrown in the thing that's going like, you have nothing to gain from this, and if it doesn't go well, like you have everything to lose. Like this book is fantastic.
I thought it was interesting. Red Sonja, of course, known for her body armor, which is less than useful in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And whether it was a writer's choice, or I'm guessing a writer and artist choice together, she does not don her typical armor once throughout the entire course of this book. And I thought that was interesting. I don't think except for the very first issue of Red Sonja, have run into an issue, or not once issue, or the classic Red Sonja, look. And so that was
the chainmail bikini.
The chainmail bikini,
yeah.
Which again is probably doesn't do. I mean, I guess it frees her up for fighting. She's not very constricted by anything, but
gotta protect the breeze.
It's not blocking arrows or anything, So
not often does like a meme rise to the like, I need to talk about this on a podcast thing. I was dying laughing earlier today. It was like one of those where it's just they took a picture of a tweet spreading around, but it was this guy just like, I'm so sick of people asking tits or ass, like women are more than just those things, and you should reduce. And like he's like white knighting for like 3 paragraphs, and then at the end he's like, but obviously ass though, which is like pretty much sums up. Like yeah, I like to see Red Sonja in the typical outfit too. It makes 0 sense, and I would champion the decision to not have her in there.
I appreciated it, like in a weird sort of way. I thought it was a good way not to go. So,
but
because especially when she's on the horse traveling through the desert for the first start of this. Obviously, you're going to take on some major sunburns wearing a chainmail bikini.
Right.
But she's dressed in like a white shirt and pants.
And that part was great with the horse dying and like the person showing up 2 seconds looked like. Oh man, this book's great.
I really wanted to not like this book. I'm going to be honest with you.
Why'd you want to not like it?
Because it's something you like.
Well, no.
Okay.
Here's my.
Let's be honest.
I was upset that they can't. I thought Amy Chu's run was really good, and they canceled it. It seemingly they pushed her out of it to put on Mark Russell. I was upset about that. I feel there are moments on this show where we get Mark Russell shoved down our throat. And I don't care. I mean, overall,
what's different with us liking Mark Russell and like Bobby liking Donny Cates?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
So what's the what? Is it just that it's something I like?
No, I just feel like you guys push Mark Russell more than he pushes Donny Cates. I feel like I'm told at least daily that I should be reading more Mark Russell.
But then Bobby told us we should be reading more Donny Cates, and we were wrong to not listen as soon as we did.
Oh, you're absolutely right. When Bobby was saying that, though, I did read Donny Cates. I didn't start reading Donny Cates until Bobby pulled way back, and then I started reading more Donny Cates. I'll be honest. Now, don't get me wrong. I do the same thing, too. But we all have this thing when people are telling us we should do something where you get that higher up and you're like, I don't want to do that. And so the fact that he took a book from someone who I really thought was doing a great job with
Amy
it.
Chu's great.
And so those kind of things. And I read it. All I could think was Amy Chu gave us really, really good Red Sonja comic books. This read almost more like the start of a Red Sonja movie. Like, it was beyond your weekly comic book. And this was fantastic in every way, shape, and form. It was a near-perfect Red Sonja comic book. So I gotta give credit. I went into it really trying to find reasons to dislike it, to complain about it, and I couldn't find any. So,
I've never read Red Sonja or Mark Russell.
Yep.
And my text was like, okay, give me Red Sonja so I can listen to this Mark Russell blowfest that I know is going to happen.
No.
And whatever. I mean, everybody's going to have, that's why there's 304 comics on your shelf.
well, yeah.
You know, there's something for everyone.
Well, that's why there's 5 of us, and we all sit there and yell about a different person as being the greatest. So.
And will I read another Red Sonja? Probably not. Would I not read a book because Mark Russell wrote it? I'd read it.
Wonder Twins next
you
week.
know, yeah. I'll try Wonder Twins.
I went back and he had wrote. Was it RoboCop?
No,
it was something
the
I read
Judge
last.
Dredd series.
Oh, the Judge Dredd
series
series I really liked. Yeah, he wrote that.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing. Like, and and I just talked about this. Like, I'm trying anything right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. If it's something that's good, great. Like, I don't care who writes it, who draws it, who. If it's something I enjoy, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
Red Sonja, I could care less about Red Sonja. I remember watching
I
Red
agree
Sonja,
with you there.
and
the movie back with
that's not a great movie.
right,
with Conan, who wasn't
and
Conan.
that's the thing,
Yeah.
and Conan, isn't something that I get into. I read the first one, I'm like, yeah, this is okay. This isn't something for me. This isn't something I'm gonna dive into. And I kind of knew that with this. I knew we were gonna talk about it, so I'm like, okay, I gotta read this, and it's just not. It's not something that.
See, I really I was not that like you have to like this, but even reading it last night before I knew you were gonna read it, I was like, this is actually a book like Bobby would love too. Like,
and it's just.
I wouldn't have thought that. He's never went in for the sword and sorcery stuff. In the end,
yeah, but genre doesn't matter. It's like the type of story and like the beats and the stuff like that. Like it's just. It's just real funny and cool ass shit happens. Like it's like entertaining it's that thing you read once and you're like, oh man, I got it. And Like
Yeah, there's parts of it, like there's shit that's funny, like when he's going on and on about like we're gonna kill like this, and like and your chickens and blah, and it's just
Right.
like how long is this?
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of stuff, you know, and it's, I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard because there's a lot of stuff that gets built up so big
Yeah.
amongst us, and it's like I just want to hate this just because so I can say I hate this.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
I can't sit here and say I hate this.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and say, yeah, I'm going to read the next one because I'll probably, if it's a week where there's nothing else, I'll be like, yeah, I'll read this again.
Yeah.
If there's like 15 books that I'm going to read, I'm be like, not going to read Red Sonja.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just.
Here's, I think, the most disappointing part of it is Conan right now is as good as it's ever been since I've read it. And that Red Sonja book is, sorry, Amy, it was better than anything Amy Chu. And I love the Amy Chu run. It was better than any single issue of Amy Chu's book. When Red Sonja started, she was a character out of the Conan universe. And now Marvel owns Conan, and Dynamite owns Red Sonja. And so you've got these two great books, but we are not going to see any crossover between those two characters because they are separated
They're
by
referencing the same gods and stuff, though. Like, Crom is mentioned in both these books, and like I had that weird moment, too. I was just like, this is real weird.
They're both taking place in the same world, but never the two shall meet. So, and it's interesting. Even like, I always thought I was interested with the movie, you know, because you were talking about the Red Sonja movie. You've seen it, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because it's a Red Sonja movie, and at the time as a kid, I didn't realize that Red Sonja came out of the Conan universe.
Mm-hmm.
But Schwarzenegger, who had been playing Conan in 2 Conan movies, appears in the Red Sonja movie as a completely different character other than Conan. Because they didn't want to put Conan into the Red Sonja universe at the time, and so, yeah, just weird.
It's fun times. What's your pick of the week there?
All right. Well, I mean, I guess this kind of goes back to how shallow I am right now with my books, but Deadpool, I thought was
No, we all read. That's a great
a
book.
great book this week.
So I was so against reading this, even when Jeff pushed it in my hand, I'm like, I have not read a Deadpool book. And then by page 3, I'm like, this is the best book.
They they always do. Well, I shouldn't say they always do, but in my few years back with comics, they always do something cool with Deadpool on Valentine's Day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually like pretty cool Valentine's Day related cover. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things like Deadpool's that book that's tough. Like, okay, like what are they gonna actually make me look forward to other than like corny jokes and other nonsense. And then this, I read this. I mean, I got not even a full page in, and I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is so good. But I mean, it's so cool. Like, Deadpool loses his heart, you know, and it's like, and he's like having drinks, and he's sitting there, and then it's like Jessica Jones shows up, and he's broke into her office.
He's hanging out her,
You know, and it's just like, where is this going? And
the whole thing's done with a noir feel for the
Yes.
detective story, because
yeah.
Jessica Jones, of course, is a detective.
and it's just, it's so cool, and he does that thing where he doesn't do where he's trying to talk to the people reading too much. Like, Scotty Young really hasn't hit on that too much yet, where Spider-Man Deadpool, that's like half of that book.
Right.
But I like it when, you know, he's trying not to say like the wrong thing to Jessica Jones the whole way through it, and then he's like, oh shit, I actually said that out loud, didn't I? You know, and it's just fun. Like, this is just one of those books that is, it's basically a one shot. The end of it ties into a somewhat major character with Deadpool.
Yeah.
Kind of recent where some things happened.
Well, even the art is way too good for a Deadpool book. Like,
It's the thing is like, do you remember like right after they gave him this book and I brought in like all that art from Nick Klein,
mm-hmm.
like you got to see this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
him drawing Deadpool has been like one of the best things. Like, Scotty Young, after he calmed down, that first issue,
Yeah.
has been just perfect. I mean, it has been, I've enjoyed this book so much, and it's just fun. Like, every issue is pretty fun. They get a little over the top with Deadpool and some of the stuff they try to get him to do, but it's Deadpool. It's
Right.
just, You know, I mean, you're not going to have a serious. You're very rarely are you going to have something serious go on with Deadpool, and when they do, it's even that much better. But overall, I mean, this is fun. I mean, this is the book where if like someone enjoys a Deadpool movie or they come in and like,
oh, that's a perfect.
I just watched Deadpool for the first time.
You
Yes,
can hand
you
them
can
that
hand
book.
them this. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
could have not read 1 through 8 and read this one and be completely fine.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, it was Jessica Jones and Deadpool off on a noir detective adventure looking for his heart, and
I mean,
it was.
they even go and find Daredevil, and he's like making fun of Daredevil about, oh, you can hear everything. No wonder why you never sleep, and this, and
Right.
you know, and it's just. I mean, like I said, this is the whole reason why I enjoy Deadpool, because it's light. You don't have to, you can read this and do 2 or 3 other things. Like, the TV can be on, the baby can be crying.
Right.
I mean, you can do, it's an easy read, and it's enjoyable.
It was a fun read.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, there's, like I said, we talked about, like, that whole deal with Cosmic Ghost Rider. I think that's part of the reason why I wasn't, like, I liked it, but wasn't just, like, head over heels over it. I'm like, this is Deadpool, and this is just one of those books this week that I kind of struggled again this week. Like, I liked a lot of stuff, but nothing just was like, this is the greatest book ever. Where I read this and immediately was like, this was probably the most fun that I'm going to have reading anything this week.
Whereas Tim and I had different greatest books ever that we had to pick from.
Yeah.
That always sucks. It's like, why can't these come out on the bad weeks?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Jeff, Erica Davis asked you if you would please read a My Little Pony comic book to us, please.
We did that on what? No, we didn't do the
We
My
never
Little
did
Pony.
that.
We did the Rainbow Bright.
We reviewed it. We didn't read it.
Yeah.
I was like, but because I'm reading your messages that come across, so. And then she just laughed when I said that, so she must be still
awesome.
watching.
Yeah.
So. Next book here, Jeff. We didn't get My Little Pony to come out this week, so Jeff has nothing to read.
I didn't read My Little Pony this
Otherwise,
week.
I'm sure.
I don't read it most weeks it comes out, but I definitely did not read any this week either. So.
The next book I had, it was actually my second pick of the week, probably a little closer than Red Sonja, was Conan the Barbarian, number 3. This book remains excellent. I had gotten behind the last week came out was the week I was away, and I've only read a couple books that week, so I had to go grab that, reread that one, then read this one.
2 is probably the best of the 3 of them that's come out. Like,
I would have liked 1 and 3 better.
Of course you did. We never agree.
I was going to say 2 is okay, but
oh my God.
I read 2 and I was like,
every episode. Every episode.
But
Can't agree on anything.
No, so, this one I think you tied back into the main storyline a little quicker than you did with 2.
Right.
That's what I appreciate.
Okay.
With both 2 and 3, you kind of see where the type of series is heading. We get like a Conan story back within the time of Conan. Here he is getting executed for getting into the wrong land, kind of at the wrong time.
He's like 17.
Definitely young man Conan. He kicks a whole bunch of people's butts awesomely as he's hanging from a tree. The branch breaks, and he's got the noose around.
He's so ripped that they try to hang him from this tree they've hung so many people from that it breaks the tree because he's so ripped.
Yeah. So he comes out. So he's swinging the noose around his neck with the branch,
knocking
the soldiers out.
It is the coolest thing ever.
Before he just runs in the tree, knocks the whole tree over,
Oh my God.
killing more soldiers. Eventually, he gets recaptured.
See, now I'm alright. I'll be grabbing 2 and 3 and taking them home tonight, just so I can read that.
Yeah.
Oh, it is excellent. They take it back out there, and so he's chained. They've got kind of chained and all 4. And the executioner's like, I'm going to take off all of your limbs, and then when you beg, I'm going to feed your body to the dogs below. It's like, yeah, if you try that, you're going to die. And then of course he does. And Conan gets up and just kills a whole bunch more people and escapes. But we're then led back into that main storyline where it's much in the future. You got the creepy kids. You've got the dead witch who's like pulling a cart and her head's still like completely twisted around because in issue 1 Conan broke her neck. When he was really, really young Conan, still fighting the pits, and so
this book is so good.
Oh, and they're taking to like execute him to some blood demon, and it is perfect Conan the Barbarian. Jason Aaron is definitely, I think, the right guy for this. In what was over the top too much at times with Thor, with all of that style of writing, it is perfect in this book.
Yep.
And there's enough jokes to keep you going through that way. It's fun action throughout, and a storyline that's intriguing enough, and multiple storylines really, because they give you an older one and a newer one. So
the moment with the priest is almost as cool as the thing.
Oh yeah.
That book's real great. It easily could have been my pick of the week too.
It was so good. Even and I have to catch up because I was running out of time, so I didn't get a chance to read the novella that they have at the end this week. But yeah, they're giving you just tons of Conan each issue. So if you were a fan of the movies, if you were a fan of the old books, the old comic strips, I mean, Conan's been around a long, long time. And they are really doing it justice with this book. So I am not happy, and it looks like I saw the advertisement that in this next Avengers event that we get for the next 10 weeks, Conan is crossing into that.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I definitely don't like that. I would rather keep him apart and doing his own thing. But
well, also you already have Thor, and they're not the same character, but they kind of fit the same space.
And you have Hercules as well when you get into the Avengers. So, I mean, it's... Yeah. So, no, this book was excellent, though.
Die number 3 came out this week. It had 2 covers. It had this cover. It also had the amazing Jen Bartel cover, which Bobby has there and can hold up because it's pretty. It's very pretty. I continue to just adore this book. It seems like it was created in a lab for me, with its weird Jumanji and It type structure, and I obsessively played Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that for a while. It's just people that got sucked into a Dungeons and Dragons game, but they have worked hard to carve it out so it's not just Dungeons and Dragons, it's its own fantasy world with its own rules and everything else, and that's a lot of what it spent the second issue doing, and then this third issue actually goes back and pays its dues to say how much it actually is like every other fantasy universe, so much so that do I give the cameo away? I don't even know,
I think you do, because if people are on the fence at all,
yeah,
J.R.R. Tolkien shows up in this book.
Yeah.
It is the coolest, most random thing I've seen in a comic ever. It's insane. He's sitting there and they're going, "You're not who I think you are," right? And he starts, and you start putting together who he is, because they never call it out and give a name, but they give you all the context.
They give you easily enough context.
And
even put it to J.R.R. Tolkien's war experience.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and that whole, oh man, the kind of levels that this, so it works as just a straight up fun we're in a fantasy world and J.R.R. Tolkien just showed up and that's really, really cool, but then the layers that this plays with of just the World War One experience J.R.R. Tolkien, and then the actual war experiences of these characters that are created things and pawns for the game, and soldiers are pawns in real life, and them weighing of just all right, this thing from this game that we went into just gave this letter to return to his family. Should we try? Because it's we know it's part of this fake fantasy world that our friend created, but it feels real. We should run this thing back. Right. While Tolkien is talking about his war experience, and the whole thing looks like World War One, and they're sitting there even contemplating man, we thought we had the worst thing ever because we got sucked into this fantasy world, but what would have happened if we were just 15 in the early 1900s? We would have been off in World War I fighting.
Right.
Like,
it took a strange twist for where you thought this comic was going.
Yes. And it's not like that's not.
It probably kept me reading it. I got in, I started, and I'm like, I don't know how much I like this. And I got into all the Tolkien stuff. Like, okay, I've got to keep going with this. Like,
we had that conversation when I came in today.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I really want to like this book, but this
well,
book
I
just
really
isn't
loved the
for
first
me.
issue, but like I got into the second issue, and it just seemed to be kind of long and drudgy.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I love the second
Oh.
issue because it set up the whole like
Though,
the way their character classes work and all that stuff, which is just so cool. It's such a neat idea.
well, I like the one character that has got to be like sad.
Yeah, the Grief Knight.
But they keep, I'm like, how many times are they going to use this dude? Like, we're 3 issues in and he's saved the day every time.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, like I said, I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. I just,
Yeah.
you know, and
He beat up those kids.
He beat us up.
no, not at all. It wasn't, you know, it was just not,
Right.
you know, I just never was into that. And I enjoy this book, but it's this book's a struggle for me. You know, there's a ton of parts and pieces there. I'm like, this is cool. And every page you open up in this book, it's like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I don't want this, they're nothing close to the same, but it's almost like Isola, where I'm like, this I actually don't mind reading Isola. I'm like, all right, this is pretty. I have no clue what's going on.
Right.
Where this, you know, I can follow it much better. It's just, I don't know. Like, I'm still, like, I'll keep reading this because there are parts of it I like,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just parts of it where I'm just like, I don't know. You know, it's like, again, you know, it's tough. You know, it's not something that is geared towards what I like at all. But I don't know. Like the Tolkien thing, like when you, because you're like, realize that it was my dumb ass, I'm like, I don't know, it's just some dude. And then you're like, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it was crazy at the time. Like, I was... And it was like, this was like the last book I read last night, and I was a few bourbons in.
Right.
And I remember really liking it. And I was like, Nate was one of the first people in the shop this morning, and he was like, how is Die? And I was like, I remember loving it. I don't remember why. And so, like, and I just started, like, scrolling through, and I was like, oh, yeah, the Tolkien thing. How did I forget that? But, like,
Right.
yeah, you remember, like, but that book continues to be, and it's, so they're turning it into its own, like, Dungeons and Dragons type game.
Okay.
With those, like, character classes they're creating
Right.
and stuff. And some of the most interesting, like, the book itself, I found was really good. The back matter in each issue, when they're talking about, like, the decisions they're making both in creating the game and the world and stuff, is worth the price of admission as well. I still think the thing with the Grief Knight, that issue, they talk about how there's like 8 different types of emotion knights, and like the ones you need to be terrified of are the joy knights, because they're like sociopaths that the more they kill, they're more like ecstatic and get more powerful, and like that concept is just insane,
Right.
and awesome. This book is really cool. This was the issue in an arc that I usually hate. This is entirely let's get from A to B. Like, they have to get from the end of where they were in the last issue to where they need to be for, like, kind of the closing points of the, you know, we're gonna have like 3 issues left of this arc. Normally there would just be like traveling, and instead they're like, let's meditate on war and what characters actually mean, and what these things that were created by our if they're actual people or not.
Right.
And the fact that it entertained those questions on what should have been a throwaway issue and had that absurd cameo, it's freaking amazing.
Bobby.
All right. I guess Daredevil.
Yeah,
I think we definitely got to talk about Daredevil.
another one that could have been my pick of the week easily.
This
It was
was.
so good. I wasn't even going to read it until Jeff was, well, first Andrew and then Jeff were like, okay, give this a read.
I think this was the closest thing to being what I would have picked this week, other than Deadpool. I like this so much. I have 2 covers, and I bought the Scotty Young because every once in a
Scotty
while
Young.
there's a Scotty Young that I think is great, and I think this one's great.
Yeah.
But no, this is this book's kind of got a lot to live up to, I think, because I love Soul's run
Yeah.
on Daredevil, and I like where this is starting. I like the whole Man of Fear series. You know, I think that or Man Without Fear. I liked all of that. You know, and this is, I mean, I'm starting to think I like Daredevil a lot more than I realized. But this was just really, really good. It's definitely a first issue, you know, where it's kind of trying to hit on some origin stuff and trying to take some things that, you know, other writers probably didn't touch on much or not at all.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. You know, I think it's really cool to get a fresh start on a lot of this stuff, and I think Marvel has really killed, like, switching teams up. You know, like the whole legacy deal, and we kept kind of watching it, like, okay, all these other guys are getting these fresh starts. When's Daredevil getting his? And we got it, and it's Zdarsky, right?
Yep.
Okay. You know, I don't know anything about. You know, I don't know if I'm sure. I think
He cut his teeth on a book called Sex Criminals, which
Okay.
we have a bunch there, which is like about a couple that goes on a crime spree because every time they have sex, time stops.
Okay.
It's just like real
Right.
silly fun. And then he wrote that really, really good Spectacular Spider-Man run.
Okay.
Peter Parker's Spectacular
Yeah.
Spider-Man that wrapped
Okay.
up a little bit ago. And then he wrote the really cool Marvel 2-in-1 series.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, one issue in, I think I'm a fan. You know, because I really like this.
Yeah.
I like a lot of times when they bring, you know, Matt Murdock's dad in. I think that's really cool because he's not talked about a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess anytime, you know, we get a lot of single mother stuff. A lot of times, you necessarily don't see a lot of single dad stuff. So I always think that's kind of cool. It's, you know, I don't know. I can't wait to see where this goes. Chichetto doing the art is really, really good. I mean, there's the one full page with no words where it's kind of dialogue, and you turn the page and you're like, did I miss a page here? And it's just like, oh no, we're just jumping right into this. And it's, I don't know. This book is great.
But like the stuff with his dad is really good. All the stuff with the priest both when
really
he's
good.
young,
yeah.
and then the stuff and he's older, and like contemplating, you know, can a religious man be Daredevil and
Yeah.
that stuff, and like what he does, like how does that fall into like those morals?
Well, oh, go ahead.
Well, and then the struggle at the end, where he finally is like, he's Daredevil again, but he's probably maybe a quarter,
Yeah, maybe 25%, maybe
of what he was
Yeah.
before he got hit by this truck, and he's fighting 3 robbers, and it's like he's getting the shit beat out of him.
3 guys who robbed a liquor store and weren't very bright.
Yeah, and he's just, you know, and he's having that struggle in himself of like, oh my god, like I've fought Kingpin, I've fought.
He's
You
like,
know?
I fought Hulks and
Yeah.
teams of ninjas and.
You know, and he's just not, you know, like, hopefully no one saw this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, you're not really bringing him down to, like, a personal level with us or anything, but it's always good when you see these guys struggle.
Well, in a way it is. It's one of the reasons sometimes Batman gets really good when you see, you know,
Yeah.
because he's asking he does. I mean, he goes out there and these, he gets in some good punches. He's Daredevil, but these three, street level, guys robbing a liquor store just kick the tar out of him. And he's basically saved because the police show up.
Yeah.
And, he starts asking, how much longer can I do this? How much longer can I physically, which I think is always, I like it when you take any of the superheroes that you've got, because even Daredevil, who doesn't, he's got super sonar or something like that, but overall, he's a guy,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
much more in the realm of a Batman or a Nightwing or, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas
he's not gonna heal.
Doesn't have super healing, doesn't have laser eyes or anything like that. He's a guy who punches people. And
it'd be ironic if he did have laser eyes.
Well, I mean, how cool was it? The last 3 pages where it's showing the one side of the page is showing like what's going on, and the other side of the page is showing how Daredevil sees it.
Oh, and it's such a little thing,
Yeah,
but how
but
this
cool.
artist portrays it
Yes.
is so much better than some of the other stuff.
Yeah,
I've
and it's
seen,
just
too.
it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, granted, this is all make believe shit anyways, but it's like it's cool because it's like it's kind of putting that into like where when we're reading this, that's almost gonna pop into your head.
Yeah.
Some of that, and it's just cool. And like going forward, I think that was cool they put this in this one because it's gonna make you think more along the lines of all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Again, the last run I loved, and then it's
Even little things like the timing in this issue is great because I read this twice and it took me like the second time to pick up on it, but like the first time, like when he's like hooking up with that girl and like it's going real well for him, and like their conversation's great where she's like, no, I like being with you because I know that like I'm able to like relax and not be self-conscious about like what I look like, and I'm into your muscles. And I was like, the second time I was reading that, I knew what was coming up next, and I was like, this is why he thinks he can go out and do it. Like he has this like really great experience, like your muscles are great. He's like, oh man, I'm great. Like I'm awesome. Like he feels like he can do anything after that, and then he gets beat up by like some little punks, and like gets brought back down completely to the ground. Like it's like this. It's just really well written.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a these fresh starts on these books are Marvel especially have been just welcome changes. I think now it's
overall.
Like across the board. I think for like all the books that hit for us.
Yeah, what like hasn't hit like Avengers?
Yeah. And
Iron
Avengers
Man.
started out really good.
Iron Man wasn't very. I mean, I kept with it for a while, but it will never.
I think
came
Iron
in.
Man, the biggest problem was it's
Dan Slott.
Yeah.
Dan Slott, Iron Man and Fantastic Four. You can accuse him of both of those. So.
Yeah.
Next book I want to talk about is one. It's probably the first one tonight that only one of us read. Archie 1941. This series wrapped up. This was one of those books that could have been right there as a pick of the week. All of them have been right there as possible picks of the week. We start off at a funeral for Reggie, and it turns out Archie. We kind of, as we got into the end of the last issue, he's out there in World War II, World War II. Excuse me. The enemy's coming in, and we kind of cut to the end of the book. This one starts off back at home with the funeral, and definitely kind of a dark turn. Riverdale is just not the place that it once was without Archie. Betty refuses to believe that he's dead, and as does his mom. And he get a nice surprise at the end, I guess. It was a good series. I'm not an Archie guy. I've read some of the weird, Archie versus Sharknado or Archie versus Predator stuff, or even the Vampironica. This book from 1 through 5 was just a really good World War II story about a small town and the effects that World War II had on the people in this town, giving us characters that we kind of knew. They definitely presented these characters in a way that was different. We've never seen Archie in that light before. But we have all the characters, and they still kind of go through some of the same motions that we would expect. Archie, the all-American guy, goes off to fight because that's what he's called to do. And so, he follows that path that you'd expect Archie to. But it's also, we've never seen that before. And it brought kind of a realism to Archie. I finished it, and I was like, this book is... If you're an Archie person, the book would be for you. If you're a Riverdale person, I think this book is for you. If you're a World War II person, this book is for you. Like, it was just a really good run, a 5-issue run. Everyone should pick it up in a trade.
This is the one book that you've read that I'm like, why didn't I read this?
Yeah. No, I feel that way about it too.
And by the time I started realizing what this book was about was after, I think you're on the third issue.
Third issue,
and
we
it
cut
was
it
like
back, so
you
there was only
couldn't
1 or 2
find
issues
it.
here, yeah.
And I mean, this isn't one where we're gonna run around the corner or something to go
Right.
grab, because it's just not. And it's tough. Like, I mean, you hear Archie, and I mean, I think of the old Archie
Oh, yeah.
comics. That's what as soon as I hear Archie, but to hear what this is actually about, I mean, like, okay, when this comes out in trade, are we gonna order enough of these that I
Right,
can
yeah.
get one, or are we gonna at least have one we can pass around or something? Because it just sounds just like
When this goes
something
out
I
in
wanna
trade,
read.
we need to get these and shove them into everybody's hand, because
Well,
it was really,
that's
really
100%
good.
going to be a book club book because it's perfect for
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, well, and it's something everybody can relate to
Yep.
Yeah.
easily, So
But next thing I'm going to talk about is Immortal Hulk 13. This book, I think at least continues to be great in ways that it's like, this isn't even like a book I would normally gravitate towards, but I think it does all the things it does really well, with the exception of like, seems to be one line that Hulk or someone says every issue that I just go like, what the heck is he? And I had to do an Instagram post of just like Hulk being like, "This is my house." It's like, as well written as this book can be at times, like there seems like there's always a line that's just like, what is happening?
the Hulk's not having that shit.
Yeah. But this wraps up the arc of them being down in hell, which just about any kind of fictional representation of hell I'm going to enjoy. This one in particular, it has some like, messed up stuff going on, dealing with Bruce Banner's daddy issues and everything else. I think that that like weird kind of split moment we get between like Hulk and Bruce Banner, I think was like really cool, and like that itself was like worth the price of admission for this book. And I don't know how often we get something like that in the Hulk book, but that was itself really great. And then as they kind of get out and kind of lick their wounds and set the stage for whatever we're doing next. As far as a comic book tour of hell that goes, I thought this was pretty great. For me, I was way more into the stuff that before they went to hell. The comic book population as a whole seems to like really love this trip down here. I thought it was good. I didn't think it really compared as much to either the Avengers stuff or the fight in the desert before we got here. But I thought like it handled itself really well, and I continue to like really want to read this each time it comes out.
Like I jumped on Hulk late. I started, I don't know, 2 issues ago, I think, maybe 3. And I'm glad I jumped back into it. It's been a pleasant like surprise. Like I think this has kind of been like the surprise book that I've enjoyed. Because I really liked it when it first started. I hated the Sasquatch part, and I hated.
Yeah.
I think it was book 4 maybe or 3. I don't know, the one that bounced all around. with the
There's
different
3.
art.
Yeah.
I did not like that one at all, and I think that's kind of what broke it up. And then the Sasquatch stuff, but this has been cool, and I love how this one ends.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're gonna keep going from that into that's what's gonna play into the next arc,
Right.
I can't wait. You're making these guys vulnerable. You're making these guys, and And the other thing I like too, you knew it was going to happen at some point. The Hulk is the Hulk again. He's not this Smeagol Hulk. He's the Hulk again. And it's just good. It's like finally, I've watched him scrape himself around for the last 2 or 3 issues. Like he's still a badass, but it's not the Hulk.
Right.
And this has been one of those I've never been into a Hulk book where this is a good book. All the way around. I don't know. I like this one a lot. I think it's tough to not like this one.
Right.
So.
I didn't read it. I have to make cuts sometimes.
All those books and you didn't read it. All right. Killmonger.
Killmonger's freaking great.
This is that other one. This was another one that I won't say got shoved down our throats, but this was one we kept hearing about and hearing about. So
it's
it
worth
was
it,
kind of
though, right?
like the Hulk, where it was okay, I want to read this, and I have enjoyed this. If they would just scrap everything else, Black Panther,
And just keep this book.
and just keep this book.
And Black Panther, Deadpool. Those are the two.
Yeah.
Forget the rest of them exist.
Yeah.
Those two
Oh.
should be the books.
Absolutely, and this is just. I'm bummed that this is wrapping up after the next one.
I am too.
You know?
It has been so phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. And it's gone it's gone all over.
Yeah.
And it's. I'm kind of bummed with what happened in this one with King and.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it. It's I like that character. And
Well, the way they set it up when they start with just that conversation between her and Black Widow, you're like, oh, I know right where this is going.
Yeah.
But just seeing it happen too is just rough. But where it puts him at the end of the issue, you're like, all right, so the first 4 issues were the first 5 minutes John Wick, and now we just get to see the last issue is going to be all right, he's going to clean some house. I'm into that.
Yeah, it's been. This has definitely been another one of those surprises where it's
You should read American Carnage.
I seen something about that. I was flipping through the previous guy.
He writes that.
Okay.
And then, did you read the detective stuff he wrote?
That's when I got into detective. Was his part.
We need
he's pretty good.
We need to keep him in comics. Brian Hill keeps talking about maybe this is his final year writing comics because he makes money doing other higher profile things, and there's not a lot of money, but hopefully we can keep him in. Maybe if places like Rad Raptor, it wouldn't be as tough of a conversation to get him in as writer of the year. Maybe that
we have to choose the best writers. We can't just give guys the thing because we want to keep them writing comics. Goodness.
He is one of the best writers.
Well, apparently not one of the best 5. We figured out the list. He wasn't on it.
You don't read his stuff.
I can't read everything.
You tried.
I tried.
You tried. But no,
I understand it's possible.
No, this is just one, though. I think that anybody that enjoyed watching Black Panther needs to read this book.
Well, if you enjoyed watching Black Panther, if you enjoy just spy stuff, it's a really good spy book. If you enjoy anti-heroes, it's a really good anti-hero book. That book is great.
Continuing on, one of the best X-Men books out there right now, and it's not a true X-Men book, but X-23.
I love this book.
Read and enjoyed this one once again. Of all the books I read, it was number 7 on my list, which is a pretty solid spot to be.
This week, that's a real solid spot to be.
I thoroughly liked this one. It's kind of continuing on the one. You've got this clone, a third clone, of course. X-23 is kind of a clone of Wolverine, and Gabby is made from her, and then they found out they've had another sister who was a cyborg. They're back at the X Mansion, or wherever the X-Men are hanging out these days. Beast is examining it and realizes, it's kind of the same gene pool as you two, but it's damaged. It can't heal like you guys can. It couldn't take the adamantium. All of its weapons are not made of adamantium. And they also find it's getting some weird satellite transmissions going to it. So Laura tries to go and figure out what's going on with that. She ends up in an interesting predicament. Gabby comes to the rescue, and of course she comes to the rescue now with this weird cyborg thing by her side.
She gives her a shirt and like learns her name, and they read. Oh my gosh! This book is great.
It was pretty well perfect. As I'm enjoying this book every week. It went through kind of an arc in the middle I didn't like as much, but I've really gotten back into this arc all aboard. The characters in it are great. As I said, it's a solid X-Men book. Ultimately, we're dealing with these two characters, and then a few, Beast will show up, or they had a few of the students at the school show up in this episode briefly. But
that was pretty cool.
Letting us really getting to know these two characters very, very well, and Laura and Gabby are definitely interesting characters to get to know. So
yeah, what are they doing when they open that room and they're like, "Get out"?
Yeah.
What is
they're
it?
playing D&D.
Are they playing D&D?
Yeah,
Okay.
so like you're gonna let something out. I can't remember what they said, but no, this is the coolest thing that happened with this book. I was talking to Walt over next door, and because he had he's like, "Man," he's like, "Are you reading this right now?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just got back into it." I said, "I've got a 7 at home, but I said I know that's where the arc starts, and I just can't bring myself to crack it open." And I said, "I'm pretty sure I read 8. I can't remember." And Miley was with me today, and she was like, "Yeah, I have that one." And I was like, "That's right, you did have that one. That's where I read it."
Yeah.
But no, this is I don't even know. Like, this book is just fun. Like it's like Gabby adds something like she should be annoying. You know what I mean? She should be that character where you're like
a Scrappy Doo.
Yeah, that's what, and she's not at all. And this, it's like you're almost like.
Just take a Scrappy Doo if you loved Scrappy Doo.
Yeah. And it's just this is just a good book. I mean, and it's. I don't know if it's a book that you're like this shouldn't be good, but it's. I don't think it's that at all. It's just like, I don't know it. This book's actually really just been good from the start.
But it's the playoff of Laura's much more of the angry, brooding Logan type character, whereas Gabby is just the complete counterpoint to that.
Right.
And the play between them is just always fun to read. So
yeah, like she's in the headset talking to her while she's like, I don't know how to turn these off. Maybe we should just stop talking. And like that. Yeah, she's great. And I love this book, and I'm a little sad that Logan's as into this. I'm not going to be able to piece together it, and I'm just constantly like looking in that room and being like, how are those books doing? Okay, they're doing kind of okay, but it is great that it is like the one book too when I bring home, like she is just over the moon, just like another X-23 off. There's like a note over there where she like left a note like where it says "Love you, Dad," and she reminded me 18 times because she heard just people talking in the shop that X-23 was coming out this week, and she was like, I need to leave a note for Dad to make sure he brings X-23 home.
She knows you too well, like he's gonna forget.
Yeah. So that book's great though.
Take it away, Jeff.
Oh yeah, that was really good with you.
Yep.
I leave this because I don't think you read this. So, Self-Made. I finally did my homework and caught up on this. I've been asked to for quite a while. On maybe if I would have read it, the ones or the twos, the week it came out, it would have been like a really high hitter on the list. And I need to get better about reading some of the, like Girl in the Bay came out this week, and that was, I had high intentions of getting that read, and it didn't happen. So, but I wanted to get back to this and make sure I covered it, and which I don't know if I have any number ones left. I sent one home with Jason as soon as I read it. You need to read this book, Bobby.
Okay.
The first issue starts off with just like this almost like Conan or Red Sonja type universe, and you get like these two characters, and the guy's like, hey, you gotta go along with me, and the other character's like, why do I have to go along with you? This is ridiculous. And he's like, we're going after this thing, and he keeps basically rewinding time back. and he's talking about like this like big MacGuffin, this big like thing that he and the bad guy are fighting over getting that, and you think that's what he has, and that's how he's like rewinding time, because he keeps like setting time back and then trying to do stuff over, and it keeps resulting in like her killing him, and you're going like, what is like, is she gonna get it and then she's gonna be able to reset time? Is this just like some weird fantasy book with that? And then it gets to the very end of the first issue, and it's like it shows that over and over, and then it cuts to like a futuristic control room in which these two game developers are in there, and the dude takes the helmet off, and like he's like, what the heck? She was supposed to be programmed to not be able to kill me in the game. Why is this character killing me over and over? And then the second issue like starts even further, but you realize that this one developer has like been slowly trying to develop an artificial intelligence, using like all the funding and stuff from creating this game stuff to make it. And this character that was like just killing him over there is possibly like her first successful like attempt at like making a completely sentient like character in like a game world.
Okay.
And so then he's like, we've got a game to ship, so he's trying to scrap everything so that and she's like, no, I've finally maybe created life here.
Yeah.
And that's where the fight of this book starts.
Okay.
Of like this corporation that has its own interests, this guy who wants to just rise in and she's trying to like make the argument that like, no, this will be good for the corporation, because if we can get this AI, that's something we can market and sell that the competition isn't.
Okay.
He's this guy who's just trying to rise in the ranks. He's like, we got a game to ship, so we got to scrap it all. And so so when you first start reading this, like, and I have to spoil it at this point to like be like, read this book, because if I handed you this book and it was just like another Conan, you'd be like, what the fuck, Jeff? Like, I just said, like, I hate this shit. Right. This book is really, really cool, and it sucks that you have to. The entire concept for the book is the twist of the first one. Okay. But people haven't been trying it, so it's like you kind of have to spoil it to be like, just read this. Tim would love this book. Bobby would love this book. It's freaking cool. You need to read it.
All right, I'll give it a shot. Sounds good.
Probably won't make Tim's cut because he's got to read freaking Battlestar Galactica nonsense.
I cut Battlestar Galactica this week and didn't read it.
Stargate.
There was no Stargate book this week.
I know you didn't read this. I think I'm going to do it, guys. I'll be the one to bring it up.
This was awful.
All right.
It's the last book I've got here.
Batman 64. I don't know. Like, it's just a Batman issue. Like, I think that's all I can really say about it. Like,
it's interesting that so the running joke leading to this was like, Jeff, you're gonna love this because it's not Tom King. Everything that I hate about the Tom King run is so present in this.
Oh yeah.
And everything that Tim loves about the Tom King run is not present in this. So it's like a weird Venn diagram of just...
Well, and I knew that this Gotham girl was gonna pop up again. You know, from the beginning of his run on this, I knew, I'm like, this shit is gonna somehow...
Yeah.
And it does.
This is such a weird place. And again, like, that makes me hate the Tom King run even more, because like that was all the setup from like the first 6 issues of his run, and we've waited 64 issues to get back to it,
and it still sucks.
And Tom King didn't bring us back to it.
And well, it's just, I don't know. It's so. I mean, we have spent so much time arguing Batman because it's you guys having your childhood sandbox hissy fits together. Like, don't know how else to say it.
I never
But
met Jeff till I was like 20 years old.
well, trust me,
19.
I heard what you did to him at 20, and he
I
can
was
still
mean to him,
he
don't
can
get me
still
wrong.
hold a grudge. I mean, but it's just I don't even know. Like it doesn't make sense for this.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I don't think Batman makes sense probably 3/4 of the time right now anyways.
Right.
This makes no sense to throw this in here. The other thing that this is doing, I'm like, I'm not a big Flash fan to begin with, and this is almost making me be like, gosh, I want to hate him now too.
Yeah.
Just, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Well, also, it's so annoying to me that like the other like Batman Flash crossover we got in the middle of this Tom King run was the button, and like there's this weird moment where like Batman and Flash, Batman's like, we can team up like old times. Like, bitch, you teamed up like a couple issues back. Like it was like maybe 20, 40 issues. Like I was there for it. I was selling comics. I haven't been selling comics that long.
Right.
It's not like it was ancient days ago you guys teamed up and did something together.
Yeah,
and you're in the Justice League together every week. What are you talking about?
Right. It's almost like you're probably, in his top 5.
Right,
like,
yeah.
come on, dude. But no, it just, I don't.
What is like, I
don't understand how we can have Detective, which is just a good, straightforward Batman book.
And this has
And we
to be
get into
such
this
a convoluted mess.
I mean, this is like what I was talking about earlier. Is like, you read this and you're like, what is?
And for being in the shop, like we are in a very privileged position, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can read just about everything that comes out.
Yeah.
There are people that have like really good jobs that can read just about everything that comes out.
Yeah.
There are kids that like Batman's my favorite hero, so I just pull every issue of Batman.
Yeah. They are missing out on so many books that are so much better than this.
And so this
Nothing's better than the regular run of Batman, but that's an argument we don't.
insane.
That's an argument we don't have to have today. So
But
because
you
we didn't get a regular issue of Batman, we got this garbage.
But you had what, issue 61 was the cliffhanger, right? Or was it 60? 60 was a cliffhanger. 61 tied back into issue 38, had nothing to do with what happened in issue 60.
Right.
62 was a weird.
62 was a weird dream sequence.
Yeah.
63 was another weird dream sequence that was like, oh, it was scarecrow toxins, which it was obvious that it was like something fake going on, so it's not even a good twist. And then, so we're like, okay, we're dealing with scarecrow toxin. No, we're into this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough, like one of Tim's major complaints about comics as a whole is why do you have Batman
In 15 places.
in 15 different places at once in 15 different Batman books? This is the same damn book.
I know.
Yeah.
It was everything I hate, all shoved into the book I love. The only redeeming factor about this book was it had a cool cover. And it's not even, the cover is cool, but you've got to sit at weird on your shelf to enjoy it. So
Yeah, I hate the sideways covers. The Harley was really cool.
I think the cover
Harley
looks really
cover
cool,
is-
but yeah, I like how you have to sit this way to enjoy it. No, I was so angry. And I was so angry when I realized that they were going to have someone else write this. And I thought, well, maybe Tom will give them like this outline of word of his story. No, they just kind of were like, I'm going to write my own Batman story and just stick it in the middle of your Batman story.
Yeah.
And everything I like about the book with its, and again, I know you say it's tough to follow. I don't think it's tough to follow, but we could argue that all day. When you just throw something completely different at us.
Do I need to bring up Tom King's own post about his own book?
He says it's supposed to be tough to
Yeah.
follow.
Well, yeah, but you can get where he's going with it. Like,
no,
yeah, you can.
he even said that
No. I could have told. I mean, when the first dreams, weird, when the first pig one, everyone's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, he's probably captured. He's going on some kind of psychotic trip."
This is a comic book. Like, this is a comic book. Like, this is.
This is garbage.
Okay.
Well,
this
so
is right, but
you can maybe make an argument that the Tom King run of Batman, like, as a whole, once the story is done, like, is like a really good Batman story. It is not
a week to week.
It is not like the things that a comic periodical can do as a medium. He is not leveraging those and making the best of those at all. And then on top of that, DC is doing it too, with stuff like this that they're forcing in the middle of the run, with stuff like the Swamp Thing. This happened early on, where there was like, we were in the middle of a story and then there was a 2-issue Swamp Thing special that happened in the middle of it. I think it was the Word Jokes and Riddles. All of a sudden, like, there's like, oh, pause, we're gonna do the Swamp Thing first. With the button happening in the middle of it, and the button at least somewhat tied into like what was kind of going along, but the Night of the Monster Men didn't, because that was mostly what was going on.
The best thing that didn't tie into this was a double date.
Yeah,
that has been the best thing, I think, out of this.
And it was followed up immediately by that issue 38 that had nothing to do with anything that was going on, and we didn't hear about it again until issue 61.
Yeah.
And so even early on, though, when we were doing the Gotham Girl stuff, that podcast doesn't exist anymore. But if it did exist, and you could go back and listen to the podcast I was in on the time, you hear me liking some of those issues, but going like, it really seems like he's writing for the trade more than he's writing for week to week. And now it seems like he's writing for the omnibus more than he's even writing for the trade. And then DC in the middle of it is like, well, let's just throw this crap into.
Right. And that's what sucks, because you know next week it's going to be how many phone calls and messages of, hey, can I get the Flash next week?
Right.
And it's probably going to be like this. Like, we're probably going to read it just like we did this. Like, this still doesn't need to exist.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. It just stinks, because it's like, Batman is such a cool character.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hate this. Like, the weeks this book comes out, like, I literally hate sitting at this table for about a half an hour, because I know no matter what, like, you could cover this thing in dog shit, and Tim would be like, I love this.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to be sitting on the other side of the table like, I hate this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, like, I'm not going to lie, I hate it. I mean, I hate this book just because it's that thing where it's like, I want to read this and enjoy it and just be like, all right, cool, this is what's going on. Instead, I read it and I'm like, I think I know what's going on. I'm not sure if I do know what's going on. And if it is what's going on, I don't care. You know, it just...
I think we don't need to argue. The other book is doing what I love about comics. This was... Then you decided to arc in the middle and make it what I hate about comics.
Yeah.
And at some point in this podcast, whether it's this year, next year, 6 years down the road, we may have to come to the conclusion that ultimately what Jeff and I are looking for in our overall picking up of a comic experience may be two separate things. Just possibly are two separate things. And we may both look at the ultimate purpose of a comic book in two separate ways. And whether or not we're ever okay with that, we'll have to find out. But ultimately, that's, I mean...
Even if you guys would argue about the sky being blue. Like, that's the point I'm at. And I know it. Anyone that listens
Michigan,
to this
man,
podcast knows
the sky is gray.
Great.
All right. I'm going to jump on here and talk about the Marvelous X-Men, which is the second book in the entering Age of X-Men, the 5-book, 5 issues apiece series of, except there's more than 5 books, the 8-book, 5 issues apiece of X-Men
Get that
books.
checklist out.
Which, not doing the checklist, man. Here's my problem with this, and I'm gonna come right out and say it.
Age of X-Men.
There is no checklist, so I appreciate that. Thank you, X-Men, because checklist will get me every time. I don't want to like it, and like I read last week, kind of the first one was just Age of X-Men, and essentially when Uncanny was moving in one direction, and then X-Men kind of split things up and pulled the X-Men into this like parallel world, and some of them are there and some of them aren't, and they're in both places. It's all kind of confusing. All of this Age of X-Men stuff is all in this parallel world where X-Man has created this, like, utopia where mutants are loved and accepted, the X-Men are beloved heroes, and everything else. We saw that in the last one. The last issue they just kind of used as a vehicle to promote all the other books that are coming out. It was well done, but it was also a giant advertisement. This book did not become a giant advertisement, which I appreciated. The art was good, the writing was good, the story's interesting as the X-Men move in to save this whole community that's on fire. You get neat interplay between different groups of people, saving things and doing all of their work. At the end, the media is there. Everybody is rejoicing at how wonderful the X-Men are, which of course is odd because people always hate the X-Men. It's kind of their whole shtick. And then at the end, we find out X-Man is having a talk with Laura, and he tells her essentially that she has a sister who, because of her nature, was not allowed to be in this perfect utopia. And which is leading us to the fact that maybe this isn't the perfect utopia that everybody thinks it is. I keep wanting to hate them. It's a really well done X-Men book, though, is the problem. So, at least so far, I gotta believe that some of these ones are gonna be garbage that come out, as we've got so many books coming out. Right now, my biggest fault to it is they keep bouncing back and forth between the accents of Nightcrawler and Colossus, which shouldn't be the same, but as they get writing are very much the same, and then you have to figure out who you're listening to. Yeah. And also, I don't like the girl with the elk horns. She's just weird. That's my thought, though. Marvelous X-Men. It's here, of course, because I am going to say, don't fall into this trap of the 100 new X-Men books. Just stick with Uncanny. Everybody will come in and buy this book tomorrow because everybody hates me. That's just the way life works.
People are like, it's funny because last week you had Tim on the podcast saying all the things we've said about X-Men, but like that's the book that broke him. And then everyone all week was like, finally, Uncanny has sucked. This book is great. And it was cracking me up every time I heard it. Everyone rushed to grab it, and like it's getting great reviews everywhere and everything else.
It's really well done. I just don't like what it is. But
my final book I'll talk about is actually a book I didn't want to like because I really didn't like issue 1. I like some of the characters, and I love about half the characters in this new Young Justice book, and I despise about half the characters in this new Young Justice book.
2. I only despise 2, and one of them didn't show up in this issue, which I thought made it a much better issue.
Yes, because the one you despise is that Impulse Kid Flash character, the actual Scrappy-Doo of comics. Like, he is so unappealing, it's gross.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other horrible character is Teen Lantern, who makes more than an appearance in this book.
And she's not even terrible so much as, like, her name's so dumb.
She does the whole, you can call me Teen Lantern in this book as well.
Yeah.
When she introduces herself to Wonder Girl.
But this book was good.
It was.
It was frustrating that it was good, because I was so ready to, like, hate this one and then be done reading it. Oh, man. It was, like, the Wonder Girl parts, like, the running thread of, like, nobody knowing who she was. Like,
it was hilarious.
It was so great. Like, she's going from place to place, nowhere to... The way she, like, told off Zeus, I want to, like, take those specific panels, print them off, enlarge them, and put them on my daughter's wall, so that, like, every day they're getting up, they're seeing that, because she's like, I'm sick of men telling me what I want, what I need to do. Like, I'm going to do my own thing. If I earn that, cool. But it's going to be something... Like, that whole section is freaking great. And then they're running around, and they're making Amethyst seem, like, badass and cool, and her world seem fascinating. And she's been such a throwaway DC character for forever. I have this weird attachment to her because of, like... I remember, like, my first or second day selling comics, like, sorting through and being like, what is all this Amethyst stuff? Like, I think I got a complete run here. Like, I'd never seen it before, and I just found it buried somewhere. And repackaged it and sold it to someone who's still coming in this store now, and and so it's something that I have like a weird attachment to, because it was this dumb throwaway character they tried and didn't do much with for decades, and then now they're like actually trying with her again. It's cool. This book's neat. Ginny Hex is also hilarious in this, especially the Wonder Girl Ginny Hex scene.
The Wonder Girl Jenny Hex stuff was really good.
Yeah.
So, no, I thought the first issue was okay. I enjoyed this issue. It by far wasn't my favorite thing I read.
Yeah, no.
Here's the thing. I think Bendis is a really good writer. I think he can even make this book with two of the worst characters in all of comics worthwhile enough. But if he would just get rid of those two off the team really quickly, I think the Five could make a really good team book and be interesting and good.
Well, team
and also,
books
there's still too many people in this book right now.
Yeah.
It's a set with a 7-person team, and like this book, again, we never saw Kid Flash, who's with Superboy Connor right now, and I like that version of Superboy as well. But I would guess I would rather him be somewhere else if that means Kid Flash is going to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
All right.
I like the version of Robin.
Yeah.
I like both 4 of the 5 of the characters in this book quite a bit, and just can't stand the other 2.
It's funny because when you really start doing the math, that's how it breaks down for me too. But Impulse is so bad, he feels like half the team, and he took up so much of that first book.
Oh, he did.
I don't know.
So
I haven't read it. I made it 3 pages into the first one. I was like, this sucks. So,
Wesley Crusher of comics.
all right. Wolverine: The Long Night 2. I don't know this. When you asked about this earlier today, the best way I can describe it is like it feels like something Tom King. Like I don't know. I like all the directions it's going, but I don't know how it's going to get pulled together.
It's really, I've got some guesses at where it's heading.
The thing is Wolverine just isn't in it.
Well, no, he's not in it all, but the murder that they think the murders that they feel is taking place seems to be revolving around him.
Right.
I know there's the podcast. I think Andrew and Jason went out and listened to the podcast. I've refused to because I want to try to enjoy the comic first as it is.
The thing is I'm kind of the point where I kind of want to listen to the podcast.
Just so you know what's going on.
So I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things in it that I do like, but as a whole, there's parts of it where I'm like, how is this all going to get tied together?
My assumption is, we don't know this yet. There is going to be somebody who's doing the killing, and Logan is also going to be on his trail.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going to ultimately find ourselves. I did appreciate they introduced this team of kids. Feral kids who owe their allegiance to Logan because he saved a couple of them.
Right.
But they're just living off their dad was a very government's evil downfall of the world, and he died, and so these kids are just out living off the land like feral in the woods in Alaska.
When they go to the cabin and they find Logan's pants.
Yeah.
And they're 32 waist, 26-inch inseam. I think that's something that gets forgotten.
And then they made the short jokes. You can't trust somebody that short.
Right, that's the thing. I think everybody always forgets.
He's supposed to be real short.
Yeah, it's what do they say? He's 5'3" or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
he's 5'2", 5'3".
But it's just so funny though, because it's okay, that's pretty good. But before I didn't want to listen to the podcast. Where now I'm at the point where it's maybe I do want to listen to this, because I think as a podcast, I think this would be awesome, because it's almost almost like a drama.
Yeah,
well, it's a detective story. It's I keep referring to it. The last one was Law and Order meets Deadliest Catch. This is just Law and Order Alaska. Yeah. They're running around, the team of cops, the FBI agents gathering clues that keep pointing to Logan.
It's cool how the FBI is using the one cop. This cop is so dumb, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
What he's,
Well, it's weird. If you're gonna do a Wolverine podcast, right? You've got a weird problem to solve, and that you're not going to get Hugh Jackman to sit down and
Oh,
record
yeah.
dialogue for a Wolverine podcast.
Right.
So it makes sense to do the story in which he's barely in it.
Mm-hmm.
But then to adapt that to a comic is a
Yeah.
weird thing. It's like, if it's a rough problem, because if they just called this a long night,
No one would buy it.
no one would buy it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Throw Wolverine in and it's
Wolverine's not in it at all. Like, it's this really weird
Yeah.
thing. I almost think calling it a long night would have been like a better weird.
I think I'm gonna say I enjoy it's a monthly too,
Yeah.
so we got like 3 more months. I'm gonna avoid the podcast. My goal, I think, and they don't ever do this because they want the double money. This probably would have been better to put out as one graphic novel.
Yeah.
Easily. So you could get it all.
The Long Night, Wolverine, whoever you want to call it, because I think as we move on, we're gonna see Wolverine's part to play in this, like.
Oh yeah.
And so.
But it's rough timing too, because so many people want a Wolverine book so bad right now. They've just been waiting for so long for like just an actual Wolverine book. And last year we had all that Hunt for Wolverine stuff, in which he wasn't in it at all. We have this now, in which he's not in it at all. We have Return of Wolverine, which is coming out when it's coming out, and
it's coming on a very weirdly random schedule, and it's not been very good since the first issue. So.
It's been so bad. So it just sucks because we could really just use like a Wolverine Wolverine book.
Right. I mean, well, the other thing with Wolverine, X-23's been so good.
Oh, it's so great! Yeah.
Like, Wolverine's got a lot to step up to, but like this.
Don't worry, Hulkverines is coming.
Yeah! Oh wait, I'll just.
Yeah. I'm a big Weapon H fan. I mean,
I'm on board with Hulkverines.
I think it'll be cool.
I'm all about the Hulk, Wolverine, and Weapon H all teaming up or fighting against each other. Whatever the heck's going on in that
H
book.
ends up being as big as Wolverine. I really do.
Like that little.
I mean, well,
Nuts.
yeah. But no, I mean that's the thing. Like,
I mean, I'm sitting on one of those first appearances too. I also hope he gets as
Right.
big as Wolverine.
Yeah.
That would be very good for me.
well, I mean, the cool thing is like we need a breakout character for our era.
Yeah, we do.
Like we need one that sticks. But I don't know. It's this long night deal. It's not filling the Wolverine.
It's
void.
a long night.
Yeah.
I got a couple. We got one more, so we'll skip Jeff. But I did the Empty Man here, number 4. This is a horror comic with Colin Bunn. We actually get to see the Empty Man. He kind of takes flesh form, I guess you might say. You've got some really weird. These 2 children who were the first children, kind of kidnapped by the Empty Man. They went off to the woods, disappeared for a long time, came back.
Did you realize this is a sequel series?
There's another series before it?
Yes. I didn't realize
I didn't need
someone,
it, but...
someone came in and was
it
like...
with the creepy kids? Getting...
I don't know. But someone came in and was like, hey, do you have the trade of the first series? Because I read this number 1 and I looked and it's a sequel series.
Wow. No, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. I didn't realize there was more before it.
Yeah.
But no, it's... horror comics are not my thing. It's interesting. When I first got back into comics...
horror comics are not his thing. He reads a lot of horror comics.
I tend to read 1 or
Yeah.
2 at any given
Yeah.
time, but I mean, it's the only horror comic I'm reading right now is Empty Man. When I first got back into comics, the people who owned the store in Hillsdale where I was going were super into horror comics, and so they were always like sticking stuff in my hand and telling me. And so it was the first time I've ever really read any.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're interesting. It's tough to get a good scare with a horror comic. But what you can get is a good kind of like hairs on the back of your neck, creeped out feeling, and this book hits that. It's close enough to, what was it, like the Empty Man or the Slender Man,
Yeah.
and just the Slender Man made me do it. It follows very much with that. With the Empty Man made me do it. Yet you realize there's enough other stuff going on.
Have you read any Ice Cream Man?
No, I didn't.
So, like, I really like horror comics that are each book is like a one shot. Like each comic as it comes out like tells a whole story.
Mm-hmm.
I think comics can do that kind of horror really well. The like issue to issue building the story. Like Colin Bunn does it better than anyone else does but it was like that. What was that one we were all into? That was the guy who had the messed up name. Infidel. What was his name? Pornsack.
Yeah.
Infidel, like, it started real cool, and then, like, as you're waiting month to month for these issues to come, and by the time to get to the payoff, like, it's real hard to pay off horror in comics.
I think there was one I'd read for a good 20-25 issues, and it kept me in. It might have Colin Bundy wrote it.
It's Harrow County.
Harrow County. I was really into Harrow County for a long time.
But, like, so, like, Ice Cream Man has, like, a somewhat brewing story from issue to issue, but it's a very, like, Tales from the Crypt. Like, the Ice Cream Man is, like, he sells people ice cream, and then weird shit happens to the people that he sells the ice cream to. It's real cool.
It's pretty cool.
People should be reading that book. This book, I've heard really good things about Empty Man, but it sounds like there's another series that you should go back and get the trade for if you're...
I'm enjoying it. I don't need it. I mean, I might, if we end up with a trade on the shelf, I can't say I'll read it, but they did a nice enough job of picking up that at one point in time have I felt, I feel like I'm missing something.
Right.
Like, it definitely felt like the story took off on the run. The kids were a little bit this time. You knew there were kids who had disappeared first before all this stuff, and you saw them, so they might have shown up before. They look really close to the kids in the Conan book, though.
Yeah.
Which it just kind of creeped me out as I read them both back to back. Like, those are the same kids.
I'd be all about those kids just showing up in random Marvel books. That would be great.
It's Boom, but yeah.
So
maybe Marvel's secretly buying Boom.
There you go.
And the kids are the only clue we have because they're like, nobody is reading Conan and the Empty Man.
All right. Last book I got, Green Arrow 49. I think me and one other person are the only people that read Green Arrow, and all of Adrian.
I watched Green Arrow. Does that count?
No, we got more than one pull for it.
This is one of those DC books. I think I say it every time I talk about this. It's just always a good, solid read. This one touches on Arrow's going and Vertigo is just causing chaos. So Green Arrow and Canary are fighting Vertigo through pretty much 3/4 of this, and Vertigo wants to know where Speedy is, where Arsenal is. He doesn't know that he's dead. So it kind of ties in to Heroes in Crisis. And this and Red Hood have been the only books. I read quite a bit of DC, but these are the only two I can think of that are tying into what's going on in Heroes, which I think is cool.
Batman did a little this week.
So
we had that Flash annual, but most of them aren't actually dipping that much.
And this was just a cool book again this week. I mean, this is kind of, in a way, this is almost, I think, one of DC's like Daredevils, where it's just a solid book that if you can get into it, you'll stick with it. But
it reminds me of Daredevil too, in that like when you I immediately thought of Daredevil 2 seconds ago, because like remember when you were trying to get me to read Daredevil, and I'm like, I don't know, man, it's a blind dude. It's always so silly. Like, Green Arrow runs around shooting arrows.
Yeah,
like
that's like
I don't want to read the Legolas book. Like,
and that's just it. I mean, like, there's even one part of this when he's like, well, when in doubt, just shoot more arrows. And I mean, you got Canary, this might as well be Green Arrow and Black Canary.
Yeah.
I mean, she's in every issue, and it's solid. I mean, this is I think in the run of this, I think I've been through 3 teams, and they've all been good. But this is another one of those characters that I really like that no one else likes. You know what I mean? Like, it's but it's good. Like, I really enjoy this, and the next arc's gonna start here again, and it's probably gonna be something else that's gonna take off in about 3 or 4 in. I'm gonna be like, why does no one read this? So, but that's all I got for the week.
Well, why does no one read Sword Daughter? That's the other question we have to ask ourselves. Here we go.
Really good cover.
Sword Daughter number 6, but it wasn't a matte cover, so I figured you'd like that one.
Did you see that there's a new Xena book coming and it has a matte cover?
I wasn't gonna read Xena this time, but I've got to get a matte cover.
Zeta
There
number
you
1
go.
with the mat cover.
All right. So anyway, Sword Daughter.
That's cool.
So here's I always say Sword Daughter is the best book that nothing happens in, and something happened in this issue. We get to issue number
She got
6,
another sword.
and
finally?
something happened. Well, she's never. Well, the old version of her has a sword. You essentially bounce back and forth between.
Is she still speaking emoticons?
She said a word in this book.
Okay.
She said a word in this book. Essentially, she speaks. Her dad goes out there. The whole thing is the 40 swords. They're a group of assassins. They killed her whole village. Her mom, everything else. They left her and her dad alive. Her dad has been on a vengeful trip to go back and get them. With her, he finally meets up with them. He is cutting them down to and fro because he has got some mad sword skills. And then all it takes is an archer to train in on him from a distance. And he's like, oh, crap. So he tells her to run. She takes off. And they essentially chop off all of Dad's fingers. They were like, if we kill you, you're going to become a martyr for your daughter up there. She is now hiding from us. But if we chop off your fingers, you'll just be a loser. And so they chop off his fingers. Then we bounce back to the older version of her, and she's breaking her dad out of prison. And he's like, oh, good, we can start our relationship. And she's like, on my own time. And then she leaves. So something's going to happen with them. But we finally, 6 issues in, have something happening in this book. We have a change in characters and dynamics.
Daredevil this week to get this book.
Oh, yeah. I can't stop now. Like, I can't have read the first 5 issues where nothing happened and then be like, what if something finally happened? We're talking Vikings. We're talking swords. We're talking a girl with an eye patch in the older version of her. A girl who speaks with emoticons, the younger version of her. Come on. This is a good stuff. A book that 4 or 5 of the issues all have matte covers.
So I do this thing often where I just give first issues to people to be like, hey, if you want to keep this, I'll charge you for it like later, but like if you don't like it, bring it back. I do that with a lot of books, and it usually like leads to people who, this book got returned more than I tried with so many people.
Well, nothing happened for the first 5 issues.
Like, I was just like, somebody like this. Somebody other than Tim. Like
I love this book. Oh, I also read Cemetery Beach. This, I think, was the second to last issue of this book. This is another book. The first issue of this book, a whole lot happened.
Yeah.
You love this book. I love this book. Warren Ellis. It was a solid book. You kind of have this like weird society that's not on Earth. A spy goes in there, and then he manages to escape. He gets this woman, breaks her out too. She was going to be put to death, and they're on the run from the military machine that is this other nation, trying to get back to Cemetery Beach, which is where he can, I guess, get back home to Earth. That happened in the first issue. It was really good. Then for the next 5 issues, we have had them on the run across this nation trying to get to where they can get free. So this book has went in the opposite way of Sword Daughter, where something happened in the first issue and nothing's happened ever since then.
It did have that really cool Sin City cover this week, though. It's up there.
I have high hopes that it ends at 7 and he gets home and I can be done with it, because I feel like I've invested too much for nothing to happen. You
should have at least got the good cover.
It's
That's
okay.
way better.
I have all the ones that match. Again, I'm a little,
I
when it
gotcha.
comes to that, I've got to have all the ones that match and are the same.
Yeah, but there's one of those cover swipes for the B cover of all of them are like famous covers.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. The Sin City one this week, though, is probably been my favorite.
But yeah, the back shows there's one more book, so hopefully he gets home or
Get that
doesn't.
checklist on that too.
So,
Again, almost did not read Daredevil this week. We had to force it on him.
Last week I had to hear about
I can't just drop out midway.
I'm not reading the last issue. I've read the other. Was it Man Without Fear?
He read
I
all
read
of
all
Man
5 of
Without
that.
Fear.
I
and
really
then
enjoyed
he wasn't
Man
going to
Without
read
Fear.
Daredevil number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought Man Without Fear
I
was
remember
really good.
just hearing like that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, and I remember thinking that is one of the dumbest things
It was
I've ever
probably
Here's-
the dumbest thing you've ever
Here's
said.
something about, if you haven't figured this out about me, you probably could do so.
Yeah.
All right, I pick up a lot of
Careful what
comics.
you're asking for here.
Oh no, I pick up a lot of comics that I know have a set number of issues. Like, it satisfies the collector in me. It satisfies the knowing that if I don't, I have a very hard time ending something. You know, I have a very hard time. Let's say I continue on with Superman and Bendis writes the next 50, and then they switch over to somebody else. I'll still have a very tough time leaving Superman because Bendis has been, I've followed up 50 issues. I've invested 50 issues of my life into something. It's very difficult for me to stop. And so when I read something that has an an alpha omega or a first and end, I can get the complete story there. And so I do that a lot with comics because I know otherwise I am on the train until they reset it with a number one issue, because it is so tough. Like, I didn't read Hulk this week because I was like, I've liked the book, I haven't loved the book, I have to drop something, I'm going to drop Hulk. And I've been sitting here eyeing a copy of the Hulk the entire time because it is killing me inside that not that I didn't read it, but that I don't have the next one to go into a box after the first 12, because then it's not complete.
But here's the thing. You should be doing that with Hulk. You shouldn't be doing that with Sword Daughter. When something's not good, whether it's 5 issues or 6 issues.
I've never said it wasn't good. I said nothing happened. Those are two very different statements.
So, like, I'm that way.
My life is good. Nothing happens in it, but I enjoy it.
I don't know why you didn't buy this, because this was something else you could have bitched about. They got the best of 2018 on the front of Hulk, and we didn't make the list. And this was one of our best books.
It was one of our best books, and I had to fight tooth and claw to get it on there. But I'm that way with, like, creative. Like, I want, like, the Scott Snyder run of Batman is important to me. That starts with, in my head, with the Black Mirror stuff, which is detective. And so I know the numbering is going to be all crazy. And that's even with a different Batman, but that's the start of Scott Snyder writing Batman books. And it ends with all that metal stuff. And that, to me, like, makes more sense of, like, I'm going to collect, or you can be like Snyder and Capullo. I'm going to collect everything that Snyder and Capullo did together, like, regardless of the numbering. And that, to me, is
like... that's not how brain works. If you've got 3, you've got to have 4. It doesn't matter who's written it, doesn't matter who's drawn it. If you've got 7, you've got to have 8. If you've got 11, you've got to have 12. And so... I would love... It's that stupid Cemetery Beach cover. You know why I have all of the A covers when the B covers have been better? Because the very first one, 3 or 4 people grabbed that book, and the only one was A. And I've not been able to switch off of A because I have to have them all the same. Because
don't get me wrong.
I am extremely OCD when it comes to comic book collecting.
And don't get me wrong.
Neurotic to the highest extent.
I wish our two things lined up. I wish that, like when they change writers and they don't reset to a number 1, it drives me crazy. Because I think that makes sense. Of, like, if you're going to do these reboots all the time anyways, like, it'd be great if they had writer and artist for the entire time, but they won't be disciplined enough to do that anymore. But, like, it's great. Daredevil number 1, new writer, start it. Please, 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 and they won't, but please, please, please keep the same numbering until Zdarsky's done, and then reboot it, and it'll be great. And then you can have a box, or 2 boxes that is like, this is my Zdarsky run. It starts at 1 and it ends at whatever.
I know, but that's a commitment. You're talking, you could be in that for 2 years. And then if it doesn't reset numbers...
But you're committing to, like, 2 to 3 years of all these way crappier 6-issue miniseries.
Most of them aren't 2 years. Most of them, and most of those books, like in the last 3 months, everything that I have started in the first few months of the store has wrapped up. Like, all the miniseries I've started. Miniseries, they're all wrapped up. Events, they wrap up. It's why I read events, because they wrap up.
But your favorite book now is a book that we tried getting you to read.
Oh, yeah.
for issue after issue that you didn't want to start
Oh, absolutely.
because of the commitment? Wouldn't you much rather have a
And
complete?
I'm now completely committed to that stupid book, and it's my favorite thing I read every
Wouldn't
week.
you much rather have a complete run of Tom King's Batman than all of Infinity Wars? But Infinity Wars came and it ended, and
Oh yeah, but at the same hand, I mean, I've started plenty of series that I don't want a complete run of either. You know, my boxes are full of books that, you know, I'm like, I went way too far with that book, but I just couldn't stop, you know, so.
I mean, I don't know. I've got a select few. I mean, I tend to, like the mini-series, I tend to read them. I don't buy them, a lot of them.
Mhm.
You know, there's some that I buy, but like for the most part, I read, like if it's one of the, like a main character that, like, you know, one of my main characters, I usually buy it. If it's one that, you know, I'm like, well, I like this, I'm gonna read it, and if it's good enough, then I start buying it. But like as far as like runs and whatnot, I mean, I've got the whole Rebirth run of Batman. I got the whole Rebirth run of Nightwing. I've got all the Green Arrow, all the Aquaman.
Mhm.
You know, and it's the same thing when I go over to Marvel. You take, you know, my favorites, and there's no holes. You know.
Oh, it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
You know, and it's.
I also know win, lose, or draw. If I get into that, it kills me when I can't make it, or, you know, for example, you know, and I mentioned this, and this turned into a long podcast, but, you know, and it's fine because you guys, other people wanted them, but I wasn't here to do pulls, and I ended up with the wrong stupid Catwoman cover, and it has bothered me forever that I had the wrong, because every
Yeah, I
Catwoman
get that,
cover,
though.
I've got the stupid B cover on that, and so to then suddenly have an A cover, I ended up going out and spending twice as much money to get a B cover because, and I like the book, but I don't love it. Like, I would
Yeah.
not put Catwoman among my top 5 favorite books.
Right.
I've enjoyed it. I get it. I was going back through my thing, and I ended up with another week I missed, and I had the wrong Superman cover, and I was like, oh shoot, well, back to eBay to try to find the cover I
Almost
missed
got it.
because.
We almost got him. That was almost a shit instead of a shoot.
You probably won't catch me because it just doesn't come to my head anymore. If I get very,
You were on you're on some sort of meds or something.
I
for
wasn't.
why-
When my thyroid was running, it's apparently when I was in super hyperthyroidism.
It was amazing. He cursed all the time. It was
And
fantastic.
it's because it would be the first word that came to my head. And Jeff was one of the few people I knew wouldn't be offended if I just constantly wasn't chewing on my tongue to not let it out.
Oh my gosh! It was
And
great.
as soon as I got my thyroid back under control, it went away. But it was and it's funny because I looked it up, and it can happen with hyperthyroidism.
Right.
But yeah.
But no, that's the thing. Like I get with the runs. You know, like you want to have. You know,
And so that-
you
but
want
that-
them to be the same. I get
But
that.
that's why I do a lot of smaller ones like that
Yeah.
because I can see us, and that's why even like with Infinity, like when I finished that first section, I'm like, I'm done. I've done the checklist. You're like, but it's just getting good. It's like, because I knew if I started it, I can't just read the one thing through. You know, I've got to get all of the different because it makes the complete picture. And yeah, I've got issues. This is not necessarily a good thing for me, but they take up far less room than action figures or other things I could collect.
Right.
And it satisfies that need me to put together order and structure and all of that.
Right.
Well, that's why I'm annoyed that they don't cater to that more. And like, there's no reason that like when you're resetting everything with number ones, like when Wonder Woman changed writers, that they can't close that out so you can hop off if you want to, and then people that want to jump on and can collect a whole run can start at a number one. If you're going to reset all the time, it's like one or the other, or just keep the numbering going forever. Like have it be Wonder Woman number 300 or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of confusion. I mean,
I love the legacy numbering because it actually makes it so you can put every Daredevil in a box and not have to like look everything up to know what comes after what. And it's been the most annoying thing with the Stanley tribute covers is the legacy numbering's not under it, and I've been training customers, like new customers that will look at a Spider-Man on the shelf from like 2 volumes ago and go like, well, is this a Spider-Man 4 I need? And I have to go like, no. I've been able to take them and show like, well, like let's look at this thing CB Cebulski's doing for us now. It's got this legacy numbering,
Right.
and you can look at this, and then that first Spider-Man came out, and this wonderful lady who's like just a grandma that's just putting together a run of Spider-Man for her like grandkids when they come over, which is awesome.
That's awesome, yeah.
I had to explain to her that Spider-Man that came out that was a Stanley tribute was the one she needed because it didn't have legacy numbering.
Right.
And it's like, guys, you can't just
Yeah.
throw us a bone. Like, have these stuff actually... The stinking, like... they did it during the New 52 era, but they just did it again during the Rebirth era. If you're getting Rebirth trades of Batman, it's worse than the New 52 ones. They completely change color now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
On the shelf. Like, they become all black. Like, it looks like that's the start of New 52 over there.
It's not.
It's more Rebirth.
Oh, my goodness.
So they don't even look nice on a shelf together.
Yeah.
Like, are you freaking kidding
I mean,
me?
and that's part of the thing with trades and whatnot. Like, when you put those, like, especially when they do it with your thicker, not quite omnibuses, but, you know, like a minibus. And
Yeah.
They have the spines that line up and, like, make something.
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But, like, you know how anal comic book people are.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that to us?
Yeah.
I don't even like it for, like, the store shelves.
No.
Like, part of, like, having a store, like, part of the appeal to me is I can see how cool they all look on a shelf next to each other. And that looks like garbage.
Right.
It's frustrating.
It is.
We should probably end this thing.
But anyway, that explains why I read what I read in a lot of cases. Why I can't stop something like Sword Daughter. Because I know it's going to end. It's going to be, 6, 8,
This
10
is
issues.
bad
and
enough.
it's
It's
done.
going to end.
So,
All right.
should we call it a good night?
Oh my gosh, this is practically the end of the year show. Thanks for hanging in there,
Yeah.
if you're still on this thing.
I tried to close it off, and then you were like, Tim, let's get into your deep psyche. And, yeah.
Yeah, you okay?
Okay.
We're doing good?
I'm okay.
Okay, do you want a couch to lie on?
You know what?
While we do the show?
I've only got one more
Yeah.
Cemetery Beach left to read, and something's bound to happen because it's the last issue.
High
so.
five or a hug. Take your pick.
I went for a high five
Right.
today.
Yeah.
It was a little awkward. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for a Bobby hug, but
Right.
didn't even do that when my dad died. Like, I think I settled for a high five then. So,
Right. Hey.
high five's good this week, too.
Yeah. Take your pick. Whatever you need.
All right. Call it a week. Have a good week,
See
everyone.
ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, I thought that was getting long.
Yeah, we're still on Facebook, too. Bye, everyone.
See ya.